Welcome back to Worlds of Protheka audiobooks. And if this is your first time, be warned. Once you step into Protheka, you'll never want to leave. With beasts who will stop at nothing to protect the women they love, and women who are only just finding out what a real man can be, you'll lose yourself in the dark romance of these fantasy stories. To bring you these free full audiobooks, we have to listen to this platform's guidelines, and they say that Protheka's steamiest scenes aren't allowed. But you can still get them from the unabridged version of any Prothekan audiobook. All you have to do is go to worldsofprotheka.com. With promo code YouTube30, we're offering you the opportunity to get 30% off of any audiobook, ebook, or bundle. We appreciate you subscribing to the channel, as it makes bringing these free full audiobooks to you possible. Don't forget to like and comment to let us know what you think. Protheka's magic is eternal, and this story is just the beginning.
Chapter 1. Corvac. The air in the king's council chamber is thick with a silence that feels heavier than the ornate tapestries hanging from the stone walls. Light from the enchanted sconces flickers, casting long, dancing shadows that seem to recoil from the gravity of the moment. I stand with my brothers in arms, my back straight, my gaze fixed on the weary face of my king. I have served on this council for 50 years, advising, protecting, and fighting for Osiris, but I have never felt a tension so profound it seems to vibrate in my bones. King Theron, his mane more silver than gold now, rises from his throne carved of ironwood and zabel crystal. The crystal, once a vibrant, pulsing blue, is now a faded, milky white, its inner light nearly extinguished. That is the reason for this somber gathering. My loyal council, my trusted warriors! The king's voice, though strained, resonates with the authority of his lineage. I will not soften the truth. Osiris is dying. A collective muted gasp ripples through the assembled manticore. Our zabel crystals, the very lifeblood of our home, are failing, he said. The great ward that shields our shores from the monsters of Protheka's seas flickers and weakens with each passing day. The unique flora that provides us with both sustenance and powerful healing remedies begins to wither. Even our own healers find their restorative arts failing without the crystal's power. He gestures to the dying crystal in his throne. Without a new source, our way of life will perish, he said. My jaw tightens. The king's words paint a picture far more dire than any of us had imagined. It is not just our comfort that is at stake, but our very survival. The king's gaze sweeps across the assembled warriors, settling on each of us in turn. There is one hope, he continues. The ancient portal. It can take our bravest to Protheka. Legends speak of zabel crystals in the caves of northern Raich, but they are fiercely guarded. By whom, my king? Silus asked. The continent is treacherous, and the crystals are controlled by cruel dark elf traders who see all other races as tools or chattel, the king said. He pauses, letting the danger sink in. This mission is not a request I make lightly, he said. It may be a journey from which you do not return. But the fate of Osiris rests upon it. I ask now, who will volunteer? Before the king has even finished his question, I step forward, my boot falls echoing in the hallowed silence. I do not hesitate. Duty is etched into my very being, a creed I live by more devoutly than any prayer. I'm not alone for long. Silus, our strategist, steps forward to stand at my right, his pale gray eyes already distant as he calculates the immense odds against us. Caspian joins him, our charmer and negotiator, offering the king a confident smile that cannot quite hide the gravity in his striking green eyes. Then comes Tarek, a silent mountain of a manticore, his presence a comfort and a promise of unbreakable strength. He is followed by Ronan, his hand already resting on the hilts of his twin blades, his fiery spirit eager for the challenge. Finally, young Lucaris steps forward, his restless energy for once focused into a sharp point of determination, his eagerness to prove himself plain for all to see. We are 6. It is enough. A flicker of pride, fierce and bright, cuts through the gloom in the king's eyes as he looks upon the 6 of us. He gives us his blessing, his voice thick with emotion as he warns us of Protheka's dangers. As I bow my head, I make a silent promise to my king and my people. I will not fail. We gather before the glittering gold temple that houses the portal. I look at my 5 brothers, these men I have fought beside for decades, and I feel the immense weight of my responsibility as their leader. With a nod, I step through the shimmering veil, the world dissolving into a brief, chilling vortex of color and sound, before solidifying again. The air that hits me is colder, sharper, carrying the unfamiliar sense of salt and damp earth. This is the Protheka that does not know about Osiris. We find the Minotaur trade ship docked nearby. With Caspian at my side lending his diplomatic grace, I negotiate our passage to Northern Rake. Soon the ship is pulling away from the shore, the vast, slate-gray ocean stretching out before us. Later that evening, the 6 of us stand together near the bow, watching the twin moons of Protheka begin their ascent. "This air feels wrong," Lucaris said. "It is the air of a world without the crystal's light," Tarek said, his voice a low rumble. I turned to face my brothers, my expression unyielding. "We do not know what lies ahead," I said, my voice carrying over the sound of the waves. "If we are separated, by storm, by treachery, by the will of the gods, we do not falter." "What is the protocol?" Silus asked. "We make for Northern Rake," I said. "We find the caves. We complete the mission, and we find each other. Is that understood?" A chorus of assent answers me, each voice laced with steel. "Then let us swear it," Ronan growls, his hand gripping the twin blades at his back. "By the Triad and the blood we share, we will meet in Rake." "No matter the cost," Caspian added, his usual levity gone. One by one we clasp forearms, our circle a bastion of Assyrian resolve against the encroaching darkness. I look at the determined faces of Silus, Caspian, Tarek, Ronan, and Lucaris. These are not just warriors. They are my brothers, and I will bring them all home.
Chapter 2. Diana. Morning light spills over the village, warm and golden, chasing the last of the cool night air from the valley. I dig my fingers into the rich, dark soil of our garden, the familiar dampness a comfort against my skin. The scent of dew on mint leaves and the sweet perfume of the moon blossoms closing their petals for the day fills my senses. This is my favourite time, this quiet moment before the world fully wakes, when it feels like the sun rises just for me. A small, perfect peace. I gently tuck a new seedling into the earth, murmuring a quiet promise for it to grow strong. "If you move any slower, Ingrid, the sun will have set before that porch is clean," I said. My younger sister, all of 15, lets out an exaggerated sigh from the cottage steps. I glance over my shoulder and grin. She leans on her broom like an old woman leaning on a cane, her bright blonde hair catching the light like a halo. "And if you plant any more herbs, we'll have to move out to make room for them," she retorts, but there's no heat in her words, only the familiar rhythm of our sisterly teasing. "Someone has to make the healing salves you're always needing after you trip over your own feet," I said, rising and brushing the dirt from my hands onto my apron. "I do not always trip," she said. "Only on days that end in Y," I said. Villagers begin to stir in their cottages. Old Man Hemlock nods to me as he heads toward the woods with his axe, and Ilara, our neighbour, waves from her doorway, her youngest peeking out from behind her skirts. I wave back, a warmth spreading through my chest. This village is the only world I've ever known, a tapestry woven from these simple greetings, shared loaves of bread, and the easy trust of people who have lived beside each other for generations. I grab the fresh, warm loaf I baked before dawn, its crust perfectly crisp, and trade it with Ilara for a pail of still warm milk from her goat. The exchange is so routine, so wonderfully mundane. It settles me. This is life. It is good, and it is simple. Ingrid finally finishes her sweeping with another dramatic flourish, and I bring out 2 mugs of the fresh milk. We sit together on the top step of the porch, our shoulders touching, watching the village come fully alive. Children now chase each other through the lane between the cottages, their laughter like little bells. "Will you be going to the festival with Kyle this week?" Ingrid asks. I take a slow sip of milk to hide my smile. "I might," I said. "He's handsome," she says, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "And he's the best hunter of all the boys." "He's also clumsy and tells terrible jokes," I add, but my heart gives a little flutter. Ingrid nudges me with her elbow. "You like his terrible jokes," she said. "I do not," I said, though my smile betrayed me. "I hope Tomas asks me to dance." She lets out a dreamy sigh. "Do you think he will?" Her gaze drifts toward the far side of the village, where Thomas is likely mending his father's fishing nets. She idolizes me, tries to emulate my confidence, but beneath it all, she is a sweet and trusting girl who still believes in the simple magic of a village festival. I want to keep it that way for as long as I can. "He will be a fool if he doesn't," I said, meaning it. "And if he doesn't, you can dance with me, and we'll make all the boys jealous." She giggles, the sound bright and clear. "What will you wear?" she asked. "I haven't decided," I said. "The green dress," she suggested, "the one with the embroidery at the neck." We spend the next hour lost in the easy, important chatter of sisters, of dresses and dances, of whispered crushes and the shared, unspoken dream of a future that looks exactly like this. A life lived out in the sun, in this cottage, surrounded by these people. I look at her, so full of hope and light, and my heart aches with a fierce, protective love. I will always keep her safe. Nothing bad will ever touch her. The sun climbs higher, now a warm weight on my shoulders. The morning's peace is full and settled, a deep, comforting hum. The laughter of the children, the distant clang of the blacksmith's hammer, Ingrid's soft humming beside me. It all blends into a perfect, gentle song. I close my eyes for just a second, soaking it in, etching the feeling of this flawless moment into my memory. This is what happiness is. A scream shatters the world. It's not a child's cry of scraped knees or a woman's shriek at a dropped pot. It is a sound ripped from the deepest parts of the soul, a jagged edge of pure, undiluted terror that slices through the peaceful morning air like a blade. Every sound in the village stops. The blacksmith's hammer stills mid-swing. The children's laughter dies in their throats. Even the birds go silent. In the sudden, ringing quiet, my heart hammers against my ribs, a frantic, trapped thing. I look at Ingrid. The colour has drained from her face, a horror that mirrors my own. The song is over.
Chapter 3. Corvac. We have been at sea for 3 days. The Minotaur ship cuts through the slate-grey water, its immense sail catching a wind that feels colder and heavier than any Osirian breeze. I stand at the railing, watching the endless expanse of the ocean. There is an unnatural stillness to it, a placid surface that seems to mask a deep and ancient hunger. It puts me on edge. The Minotaur crew are capable sailors, their movements efficient and sure as they tend to the rigging, their voices booming in their rough, guttural tongue. They treat us with a wary respect, their honor-bound culture preventing any open hostility, but their contempt for anything that isn't a minotaur is a palpable thing. Caspian has managed to charm a few of them into sharing a round of their acrid-smelling ale, his laughter a rare sound in the tense quiet that usually surrounds us. My brothers handle the unease in their own ways. Tarek spends hours in silent meditation near the ship's mast, a mountain of calm resolve. Ronan is a restless storm of energy, endlessly sharpening his twin blades until the sound of steel on stone grates on my nerves. "Must you do that?" Lucaris asked him on the second day. "A dull blade is a warrior's shame," Ronan had replied without looking up. Lucaris, driven by a need to prove himself, has taken to climbing the rigging, his agility earning grudging nods from the Minotaur crew. Silus is perhaps the most unsettled. He spends his time poring over the crude maps the captain provided, his brow furrowed in concentration, trying to account for every variable in a world where the variables are infinite. "These charts are more guesswork than science," he muttered to me earlier. "They are all we have," I said. I watch them, my brothers, and the gravity of my vow settles upon me again. To return with the crystals, and with all 6 of us alive. It felt like a simple declaration of fact in the safety of our home. But out here, on this alien sea, it feels like a prayer sent into a void. I scan the horizon, my hand resting on the hilt of my sword. The sky is a vast, empty canvas of pale gray. There's no sign of land, no sign of life. Only the endless, waiting water. The change comes without warning. The wind that has steadily pushed us north simply dies, leaving the great sail to slacken with a dispirited flap. The unnatural stillness on the water deepens, the surface becoming as smooth and reflective as polished glass. A strange, greenish light begins to bleed into the gray sky from the west. The Minotaurs stop their work, their horned heads turning as one toward the horizon, sniffing the air like wary beasts. A low murmur runs through them, their words sharp and anxious. Then I see it. A line of darkness on the horizon, not the gentle curve of distant land, but a hard, bruised wall of cloud that seems to rise from the sea itself. It moves toward us with impossible speed. "What is that?" Lucaris whispered, his voice tight with alarm. "No natural storm," I said. The captain bellows orders with a thunderous roar that finally breaks the crew from their trance. They scramble to furl the sails, to batten the hatches, their movements frantic. The sky darkens with every passing second, the sun disappearing behind the monstrous storm front. Rain begins to fall, not as a drizzle, but as a sudden, violent downpour, the drops like pellets of ice. The ship lurches as the first wave hits us, a fist of water that crashes over the bow and sweeps across the deck. I dig my claws into the wood of the railing to keep my footing, the roar of the wind and sea deafening. Lightning spiders across the sky, coiling in a way that feels horribly wrong, its flashes illuminating a sea that has been churned into a liquid vortex of chaos. This is no natural storm. I've sailed the seas around Osiris my entire life. I know the moods of the ocean. This is something else. "This is an attack!" I yelled over the wind. My gaze is fixed on the tempest, on the churning black clouds overhead. In the strobing flashes of lightning, I see it, a shape. It is vast and vaguely human, a colossal shadow moving within the storm. 2 points of malevolent light gleam where its eyes should be, and I feel a horrifying certainty that they are fixed on our ship, on me. A giant wave rises from the sea beside us, its crest blotting out the sky. The shadow in the cloud seems to loom larger, watching with a cold, ancient intelligence as the wall of water hangs over us. There is a moment of impossible silence, the wind and rain seeming to hold their breath. Then the wave crashes down. The sound is of a mountain breaking in two. Timber screams and splinters, the ship's mast snapping like a twig. Men, both manticore and minotaur, are thrown across the deck like dolls. I see Ronan disappear over the side, a curse lost in the roar. The deck beneath my feet heaves and breaks apart. The inhuman presence in the storm watches it all, a silent, terrible witness to our destruction. Then the sea rises up and swallows me whole, dragging me down into a churning black abyss. My lungs burn, and as my vision fades, the last thing I see are those 2 gleaming eyes, watching me sink into the depths.
Chapter 4. Diana. For a heartbeat, the world is frozen. The scream hangs in the air, a single terrible note that has silenced everything. Ingrid's hand flies to her mouth. What was that? she whispered. I don't know, I said, my own voice tight. Then the world explodes into chaos. Doors are thrown open, people spilling out into the lane. Some run toward the sound, armed with farming tools and foolish courage. Others, wiser, try to bolt for the woods. It makes no difference. From the shadows between the cottages, the figures emerge. They are all women, tall and graceful, moving with a liquid speed that isn't human. They wear dark, flowing cloaks, but the hoods do little to hide their impossible beauty. Their faces are perfectly sculpted, their skin luminous, but it's their eyes that make my blood run cold. They gleam with a predatory malice, a deep and ancient cruelty that has no place in our peaceful village. These are not ordinary raiders. They are something else entirely, something torn from the darkest corner of a nightmare. Kyle, his jaw set with fierce determination, rushes forward with his father's wood axe. He is strong and brave, and my heart lurches with a terrible premonition. He swings the axe at the nearest woman. She doesn't even flinch. With a lazy flick of her wrist, she sends a bolt of crackling black energy into his chest. Kyle is thrown backward, his body hitting the ground with a sickening thud. He doesn't move again. A ripple of horrified shrieks rips through the onlookers. This isn't a fight, it's a slaughter. Panic, raw and absolute, takes hold. The villagers scatter like frightened birds, but there is nowhere to run. Inside! Now! I grab Ingrid's arm, my nails digging into her skin as I try to pull her back toward the safety of our cottage. But it's too late. Our parents are already rushing out, my father clutching a pitchfork and my mother a long kitchen knife. Their faces are pale with fear, but they move to stand in front of us, a fragile, hopeless barrier. Get back in the house, my mother yelled. Get your sister and run, my father yells, his voice cracking. Go out the back, to the woods. But the Perna, for that is what they must be, the witches of old tales, are everywhere. They move with a terrifying, systematic grace, cutting people down not with blades, but with gestures and whispered words. I see Alara fall, the milk pail rolling away from her outstretched hand. In the screaming chaos, Ingrid is ripped from my grasp. A Perna with hair like spun silver grabs her by the arm and begins dragging her toward the village square. Ingrid! I screamed. Diana! She cried. I lunge after them, my only thought to get my sister back. But a fleeing man, his eyes wide and unseeing with terror, crashes into me, sending me sprawling into the dirt. The impact knocks the wind from my lungs, and for a moment, the world is a dizzying blur. When my vision clears, I push myself up onto my elbows, and I see it. I see it all with a horrifying, crystalline clarity. A Perna with eyes like chips of violet ice stands before my parents. My mother, brave and defiant to the end, shoves my father behind her, holding her small knife aloft. The Perna almost looks amused. She raises a hand, and my mother collapses, a single perfect red flower blooming on the front of her dress. My father roars, a sound of pure animal grief, and charges with the pitchfork. He doesn't even make it 2 steps before he falls beside her. A strange, numb silence descends upon me. The screams of my neighbours, the crackle of dark magic, the smell of burning thatch, it all fades into a distant hum. All I can see are my parents, lying still in the dirt lane where they had stood just moments before. All I can feel is a cold, hollowing emptiness where my heart used to be. The sounds of fighting die down, replaced by the soft, triumphant laughter of the women in black. Slowly, I become aware of movement around me. One by one, they turn their attention to me. They form a loose circle, their beautiful, cruel faces looking down at me as I lie helpless on the ground. They took Ingrid. They killed my parents. They've destroyed my entire world. And now they've come for me. I expect a final, killing blow. I almost welcome it. But it doesn't come. They just watch me, their smiles cold and predatory. One of them, her silver-white hair braided with what look like tiny bones, steps forward. She crouches down, her violet eyes boring into mine. "This one has potential," she whispered to another. "Yes," the other whispered back. "The blood is strong in her." She doesn't need to say a word to me. I know in that terrible, silent moment that they are not going to grant me the mercy of a quick death. My fate is something far, far worse.
Chapter 5. Corvac. My first sensation is the grating of wet sand against my cheek. The second is a fire in my lungs, a desperate burning need for air. A violent, racking cough convulses my entire body, and I spew a lungful of stinging salt water onto the dark shore. I roll onto my back, gasping, each breath a raw, painful thing. My world is a smear of gray, a gray sky, gray rocks, and the gray, churning sea that tried to claim me. The memory of the storm is a chaotic nightmare, but the image of the entity within it, the devourer with its eyes of cold starlight, is terrifyingly clear. Slowly, I push myself into a sitting position. My ornate Osirian armor is a wreck, dented and scraped, one pauldron torn clean off. I reach for my sword out of pure instinct, but my hand finds only an empty scabbard at my hip. It is gone, lost to the depths, and the loss feels like a part of my own soul has been torn away. I force myself to my feet, my legs shaking with exhaustion, my body a map of deep, aching bruises. Looming over the rocky shoreline are immense, jagged mountains, their peaks dusted with snow. The Praj Mountains. A cold, bleak continent, and I am utterly alone. My brothers. The thought is a jolt of pure agony. Silus, Caspian, Tarek, Ronan, Lucaris. Are they at the bottom of the sea, victims of the devourer? Or are they, like me, washed ashore on some other desolate stretch of this cursed coast? Our vow echoes in my mind, a sacred oath. But Rach is a world away, and I am stranded here with nothing. First, I must survive. I begin to walk, my movements stiff and pained, my eyes scanning the shoreline for any sign of my kin. The tide has left a line of debris. Splintered ship timbers, a torn piece of sailcloth, the stark white horn of a minotaur. And then I see them. Tracks. Not one set, but several, pressed into the wet sand near the tide line. Hope, fierce and sharp, surges through me. Others survived. My brothers may yet live. I follow the tracks, my pace quickening, but my hope soon sours to a grim practicality. The footprints scatter, heading in different directions. 2 sets lead north along the coast, while another veers south. A 4th set, heavier and deeper, heads directly inland, toward the foreboding mountains. I have no way of knowing who made them. To follow one set at random into a hostile and unknown land would be a fool's errand, a gamble that could lead me further from my brothers, not closer. A leader does not gamble with the lives of his men, even when they are not present. My duty is clear. Before I seek my own survival, I must do what I can for them. I search the shoreline until I find what I am looking for. A large, flat-faced boulder near the tree line, a landmark that would be visible to anyone searching this stretch of coast. I find a sharp piece of flint, and with painstaking effort, my cold hands clumsy and stiff, I begin to carve into the rock. It is slow, arduous work, but I do not stop until it is done. I carved the Osirian warrior symbol, a stylized manticore head, and directly above it, the northernmost star of the king's constellation. Rally point, north. It is a message any of my brothers would understand. Having left the marker, I feel I have done all I can for my brothers for now. I have left them a sign of hope, a direction, a promise that they are not alone. My duty as their leader is fulfilled. Now I must focus on my duty as a survivor, so that I can be there when they find my sign. I stand at the crossroads of the desperate paths, the cold wind whipping at my torn tunic, and I weigh my options. The coastline is a long, exposed route into the unknown, The mountains are more dangerous, more difficult, but they offer the promise of high ground, a better view of the surrounding land, and a greater chance of finding a defensible shelter and fresh water. My training and my instincts are in agreement. I must gain a vantage point. I must assess this new, hostile territory before I can hope to navigate it. The path inland is the only logical choice for a warrior in my position. My long-term mission remains the same: find my brothers and continue our quest to Northern Reach. But my immediate mission is brutally simple: survive. I turn my back on the gray, hungry sea and the scattered tracks in the sand. I look up at the jagged, snow-dusted peaks of the Praj Mountains. With the image of the Osirian rally symbol fresh in my mind, a silent promise to the brothers I hope to see again, I take my first step onto the mountain path. The climb is steep, the air is thin, and I am alone. But I am a manticore of Osiris. I will endure.
There isn't much left of the world after the orcs came.
Savage. Brutal. Merciless.
If you're a woman, you're property. Even to other humans.
What happens when an orc stakes his claim on a human woman? Who would dare to stop him?
Me. Chapter 6. Diana. I float in a deep, dreamlike fog. It is not a true void, but a muffled, timeless state where my consciousness drifts, untethered from a body I can no longer feel. For the most part, it is a place of profound silence, a quiet hum of the magic that holds me, a constant, unchanging note. But sometimes, the hum changes pitch, and the fog thins, allowing the outside world to leak through in fractured, terrifying ways. In these moments of flawed stasis, I am assaulted by sounds I cannot understand. There is the soft, sibilant hissing of the Perna, their voices like venomous secrets being shared just beyond the veil. "The specimen remains stable," one voice whispered. "For now," another whispered back. "But the power within her is volatile." I hear the sharp, grating scrape of what might be glass against stone, a reminder of the prison that contains me. These sounds are not constant. They are brief, distorted intrusions that pierce the monotony of my existence, reminding me that a world I am no longer a part of still exists, and it is a place of horror. These moments are a torment, a hint of a reality I cannot reach, but they are also my only connection to anything at all. I am a mind, a flickering awareness, held in a state between life and death. The memories are all that keep me tethered to the girl I once was, the girl who tended a garden and laughed with her sister on a sun-drenched porch. The memories are all I have left, and they are also my greatest torture. They prove I was once alive, and in doing so, they remind me that I no longer am. The fog is not always empty. It is a canvas onto which my mind projects the worst day of my life, over and over again. The memory is always the same, a cruel loop of a perfect morning. I am 19 years old, and the world is beautiful. My sister, Ingrid, is 15, her whole life a bright and shining promise ahead of her. We are on the porch, and she is chattering excitedly about the upcoming harvest festival, her blue eyes sparkling with dreams of music and dancing. My heart aches with a love for her so fierce, even here in this placeless state. The memory is a gift and a curse. I can see my mother's smile, hear my father's laugh, feel the warmth of the sun on my skin. It is all so real that a part of my sleeping mind always believes, for a fleeting moment, that it is true. But the scream always comes, and the beautiful memory shatters into a nightmare. I am forced to watch the Perna glide through my village, their impossible beauty a terrible mockery. I see them drag Ingrid away, her face a mask of terrified disbelief. I see my parents fall, and the sight breaks me anew every single time. But my own trauma is not the only horror that lives in this fog. During the moments when the veil of my stasis thins, I have heard things. The terrified screams of others, dragged into the clearing, their pain a sharp, jagged echo that pierces my dream state before fading back into the hum. I do not know who they were, but their agony has become a part of my own endless nightmare. The Perna's experiments were not limited to me. They have been at their monstrous work this entire time. The world outside my prison has its own rhythm, and even in here, I can feel the faintest echo of it. The magic that holds me is not entirely unchanging. It breathes with the seasons of the world. 4 times, I have felt a deep, pervasive cold seep into the very nature of my stasis, a metaphysical chill that lasts for months before giving way to a different, warmer energy. It is not a feeling of temperature on my skin, but a shift in the magical hum itself. 4 winters have passed. This subconscious tracking is the source of the cold certainty that has grown in the core of my soul. I have relived my 19th birthday thousands of times, but the 4 cycles of cold tell me the undeniable truth. 4 years have been stolen from me while I have been floating in this darkness. The thought is not a vague instinct. It is a calculation made from the only input my prison has allowed me. I have not truly lived since the day my village died. My only escapes are my dreams, fleeting moments of running free through fields that no longer exist, or terrifying nightmares of drowning in the oppressive presence of the shadow that walked among the Perna. The thought of those 4 stolen years is the most profound horror of all, a loss so immense that it threatens to finally extinguish the last, flickering ember of my spirit.
Chapter 7. Corvac. For days I have walked, and for days the Praj Mountains have tested me. This is a harsh and unforgiving wilderness, a landscape of jagged rock that tears at my boots and a biting wind that finds every gap in my damaged armor. The initial exhaustion from the shipwreck has settled into a deep, gnawing ache in my bones, a constant companion to the hunger that claws at my belly. On Osiris, I am a master of the wild, but this world is alien. Its plants are strange, its animals cunning and unfamiliar, their scents all wrong on the cold air. The struggle is constant, a grinding battle for every foot of elevation, for every mouthful of water. Still, I endure. My warrior's discipline is a shield against the despair that whispers at the edges of my mind in the dead of night. I hunt, using skills honed over a century of service. I managed to track and kill a small, furred creature with wicked-looking incisors. Its meat tough and gamey, but enough to quell the worst of the hunger pains. I find streams of ice-cold water that flow down from the snow-dusted peaks and follow them, knowing they are my best chance of finding a more hospitable valley, perhaps even a settlement. Every step is a calculation of risk, every shadow a potential threat. At night I find what shelter I can in shallow caves, or under the dense boughs of ancient pines whose needles are as sharp as daggers. I do not allow myself the luxury of a fire, knowing its light and smoke would be a beacon in this dark land. Sleep is a shallow, restless thing, filled with images of the storm, of the malevolent eyes in the clouds, and of the faces of my lost brothers. The vow we made on the ship is a burning coal in my gut, the words a constant mantra that drives me onward. To meet in Rach, I whisper to the uncaring wind. It is that promise, that sacred duty, that forces my stiff, cold muscles to move each morning, to continue this seemingly hopeless journey. I am pushing through a dense forest of pines, the air growing still and heavy around me. The wind, which has been my constant, howling companion on the high ridges, dies away completely. In the sudden, profound silence, I hear it, At first it is so faint I mistake it for the blood rushing in my own ears. It is a low, rhythmic sound, a melodic chanting that seems to come from everywhere at once, a vibration that I feel in the soles of my boots before I truly hear it with my ears. The sound is hypnotic, pulling at my senses in a way that is both alluring and deeply unsettling. My every instinct, honed by decades of battle and survival, screams of danger. This is unnatural magic. I can smell it on the air, a scent like ozone and old secrets. Yet, a deeper curiosity, an inexplicable pull from a place I do not recognize, urges me forward. I abandon the direct path and begin to move with the predator's caution, using the thick trunks of the pines and the deep, eternal shadows they cast for cover. My movements are silent, my senses on high alert, scanning the woods for any sign of a sentry or a trap. The chanting grows louder, clearer. I can distinguish a chorus of female voices now, their words in a language I have never heard. The harmony is perfect, yet it holds a discordant note of cruelty. The thrum of magic in the air becomes a palpable pressure, a weight on my skin that makes it tingle. I'm close now. I know that whatever lies ahead is a power I do not understand, and that walking toward it may be the last mistake I ever make. But I cannot turn back. Something is pulling me forward, and I am powerless to resist. I come to the edge of a clearing and halt, my body pressed flat against the rough bark of a gnarled, ancient tree. I peer around the trunk, my breath catching in my throat. The sight before me is from some dark legend, a scene of terrible, sacrilegious beauty. The clearing is a perfect circle, ringed with massive moss-covered standing stones that lean like the tired, ancient bones of the earth itself. The air within the circle is still, the ground bare of any life. In the exact center, an ornate glass coffin floats a few feet above the ground. Faint, blue runes are carved into its surface, and they pulse with a soft, ethereal light, casting strange shadows on the ground below. A circle of women surrounds the coffin, their heads bowed, their voices rising and falling with the strange, mesmerizing chant. They are impossibly beautiful, with faces that could have been carved by a master sculptor, but their beauty is edged with a sharp, predatory aura. These are the Purna, the cruel witches from the Minotaur's darkest tales. My gaze is drawn past them, through the enchanted glass of the coffin, to what lies within. It is a woman. She has skin as pale as fresh snow, and long, dark hair that spills around her like a river of shadow. Her features are delicate, her face serene in its unnatural slumber, like a princess from a storybook trapped in an enchanted sleep. She is a vision of fragile human beauty, a stark and jarring contrast to the monstrous power that surrounds her. As I stare at her, a profound, primal feeling grips me. It is a jolt of recognition that goes deeper than memory, a connection that bypasses logic and reason entirely. It is a roar in my blood, a silent recognition from a version of myself I never knew existed, an unshakable certainty that changes everything. My mission, my brothers, my very world suddenly shifts and reorients around the sleeping woman in the glass coffin. I do not know her name. I do not know her story. But I know she is mine.
Chapter 8. Diana. I am adrift in the familiar, suffocating darkness when the change begins, a shift in the very fabric of my prison. The constant, low hum of the coffin's magic, a thrumming vibration that has been the background noise of my existence for years, suddenly changes in pitch. It is a subtle alteration, but in my sensory-deprived world, it is as loud and jarring as a thunderclap. My first reaction is a cold spike of fear, a feeling I thought had been numbed out of me long ago. The Purna are doing something new. A new experiment is beginning. I brace my consciousness for a new kind of pain, a new violation. But the feeling that follows is not cold or malicious. It is something else entirely. A presence that brushes against the edges of my mind like a warm hand reaching through the void. It is a feeling so alien, so contrary to the cold cruelty of my captors that I almost dismiss it as a hallucination, another trick of a mind that has been isolated for far too long. Yet it persists. It is a steady warmth, a gentle pressure against the magical cage that surrounds me. It feels like a promise, a question, a call from a world I thought I had lost forever. Yet now, something other than despair stirs within me. It is a flicker of curiosity, a fragile tendril of an emotion I can barely name. I am so used to being a passive observer of my own torment, a helpless victim of my looping memories. But this new presence, it feels like an anchor, something solid in the endless shifting sea of my consciousness. It is a single point of light in an eternity of darkness, and I find myself, against all reason, reaching for it. With a will I did not know I still possessed, I strain toward the new presence. I pull on a thread of mental strength that has lain dormant for years, buried under layers of grief and hopelessness. No longer the passive victim in my own mind. I am actively reaching, pushing against the suffocating darkness, my entire being focused on that single point of warmth. It's clear I am swimming up from the deepest part of the ocean, fighting against a current that wants to pull me back down into the abyss. The effort is immense, a silent scream of exertion in the void. As I push closer, a voice speaks directly into my mind. Not a sound, but a thought, a presence given form and substance. It is a deep, masculine voice, and it resonates with a power that makes the Perna's magic feel brittle and thin, and it speaks my name, Diana. The shock of it is a blow. To hear my own name, to be acknowledged as a person after being a thing, a specimen, for so long, is overwhelming. Tears I cannot physically shed burn behind my eyes, and with the voice comes a flood of feelings that are not my own, but are directed at me. I feel an unshakable sense of safety, a warmth that chases the deep, eternal cold from my soul. And beneath it all, there is something else, something fierce and fiercely protective. It feels like a shield, a promise, a fortress wall rising up around me. It is the complete antithesis of the cold, cruel magic of my captors. This is not a violation. This is a rescue. The feelings are so powerful, so real, that a new fear takes hold. This must be a dream. It is a new and far crueler illusion created by the Perna to torment me, to give me a taste of hope before ripping it away and plunging me back into an even deeper despair. I almost pull back, ready to retreat into the familiar numbness that has been my only defence for so long. But the feeling of safety is too profound, too absolute to be a simple trick. It is not a lie. It feels like destiny. It feels like a lifeline thrown into my abyss. I must answer. I have to let this stranger know that I am here, that I am aware. The hope is a fragile, terrifying thing, a tiny flame in a hurricane, but I must guard it. I must feed it. I muster all of my will, focusing every last ounce of my consciousness into a single, desperate thought. The effort is staggering after years of passivity. It is like trying to shout after having your throat cut. I do not know his name. I do not know who he is or what he is. But I can feel the shape of him in my mind, a being of honour and strength. I push my thoughts toward him, a fragile whisper sent out into the void. I am here. Can he even hear me? Is it even my voice? Silent for so many years, can even break through the magical barriers of my prison. But I am unwilling to let this chance, this single, impossible spark of hope, slip away. I continue to reach for him, clinging to his presence like a drowning woman clinging to a piece of driftwood. I am not just surviving, I am fighting.
Chapter 9. Corvac. The primal certainty that the woman in the coffin is mine rocks me to my core. It is a feeling so powerful, so absolute, that for a moment the world outside of it ceases to exist. In my shock, I shift my weight, and a dry twig snaps under my boot with a sound that is as loud as a thunderclap in the silent clearing. The chanting stops instantly. The air, which had been vibrating with their hypnotic magic, falls completely still. As one, the Perna turn, their beautiful faces now masks of cold, reptilian hostility. Their eyes, all shades of violet and gray, fix on my position behind the tree. I am discovered. Hiding is no longer an option. I straighten to my full height and step out from behind the ancient tree, letting my hands hang loosely at my sides. I allow the Perna to see me, to assess me. I am a warrior, and I will not be caught cowering in the shadows. There are at least a dozen of them, their graceful forms belying the immense power I can feel radiating from them. I'm outnumbered, outmatched in magic, and unarmed. A direct confrontation would be suicide. The Perna part, and one of them steps forward. She is taller than the others, her silver-white hair woven in intricate braids that contain what look like tiny, polished bones. Her violet eyes have slitted pupils, and she looks at me not as a person, but as an insect she might consider crushing. "Velana!" one of the other witches hisses, her hand glowing with a faint, dark energy. "An intruder!" The leader, Velana, raises a hand, silencing her subordinate without a glance. Her gaze remains fixed on me. "You're a long way from anywhere, Manticore," she said, her voice melodic but laced with the same venom I see in her eyes. "What brings you to our sacred grove?" "I am a traveler, shipwrecked and lost," I said, keeping my own voice even and calm, betraying none of the rage that is boiling in my blood. Velana's eyes flicked toward the coffin and then back to me, a cruel, knowing smile touching her lips. "You are looking at our prize," she purrs, her voice dripping with condescension. "What is she?" I ask, forcing a note of detached curiosity into my tone. "A prize of a rare bloodline," Velana said, a flicker of something akin to academic interest in her eyes. "We attempted to awaken her power, to bring her into the fold of the Coven. But the human part of her, her sentimental attachments, her grief, made her power wild and uncontrollable. A fascinating but ultimately failed experiment. I processed this new information. They know what she is. They tried to turn her. A failed experiment you chose not to discard? I press, feigning a mercenary's interest. She must be valuable, then. Her power is potent, even if it is untamed, Velana admits, her arrogance making her careless. In stasis, she is a placid resource. A well from which we can draw, while we study how to break the human weakness that corrupts her gift. She will serve our purpose one way or another. But she is of no concern to you. Leave this place. I offer Velana a slight, dismissive bow, a gesture I hope she reads as my acceptance of her power. I seek only a place to rest, I said. I will trouble you no further. She watches me with her cold, reptilian eyes for a long moment, then gives a curt nod, turning her back on me like I am no longer worthy of her attention. The others follow her lead, their focus returning to the coffin, the low, hypnotic chant beginning to rise once more. They believe I am no real threat. It is in arrogance I will use against them. I turn and walk back into the forest, my pace measured, my posture that of a defeated creature slinking away. I do not look back, but I do not go far. Once I am deep enough in the shadows to be invisible, I circle around the clearing, my movements silent and swift. I find a high ridge that overlooks their profane ritual, a perfect vantage point hidden by dense foliage. Her words echo in my mind, a well from which we can draw. They are not just keeping her prisoner, they are feeding on her, studying her like an insect pinned to a board. The knowledge solidifies my resolve into something harder than diamond. A plan begins to form, reckless and desperate. I cannot fight their magic head-on, but a spell requires focus, and a ritual requires harmony. I will be the chaos that shatters both. My attack will not be aimed at them, but at the very heart of their ritual, the instrument of their foul experiment, the coffin itself. The odds are against me. Failure means a swift, agonizing death. But as I look down at the glowing coffin, at the woman they are slowly dissecting for her power, I know there is no other choice. Tonight, I will bring the fury of a manticore down upon these witches. The risk of death is a small price to pay for her freedom.
Chapter 10. Diana. The warmth I felt from the stranger's presence has not faded. It has solidified, becoming a steady pulse in the void, a rhythm I can cling to like a heartbeat. It is a powerful, grounding force in the timeless, formless sea of my imprisonment. After years of nothing but the cold, cruel magic of the Perna, this new connection is like the first rays of dawn after an endless night. It is a feeling of solid, unshakable strength, like a mountain in my formless world, and I know it does not come from me. I focus on it, drawing on a will I thought had been eroded to dust. I reach for the connection, not with phantom limbs, but with my consciousness itself. It is a terrifying and exhilarating experience after so long as a passive vessel. The closer I get, the more I can feel from him. There is a deep simmering rage that flows from him, an anger so profound it almost scorches my mind. But it is not directed at me. It is aimed at my captors. And beneath the rage there is something else, an overwhelming fierce protectiveness that wraps around me like a shield. He believes I am his. The thought is not frightening. It is the most comforting thing I have ever known. It gives me a strength I have not felt since before the attack. Gathering all of my courage, I push a fragile piece of myself along the link I can now feel between us. I offer him the one thing I have left that is truly my own. My name. Diana. The response is immediate and powerful. He receives my name not as a word, but as a treasure. He speaks it back to me in his mind, and the sound of it, the feeling of it, gives it a weight and reality it has not had in years. It reminds me that I am a person, not just the specimen I hear the Perna hiss about in their distorted whispers. His presence solidifies, and I can feel his thoughts with a startling clarity. He is a warrior, he is honourable, and he is planning to get me out of here. A new kind of terror seizes me. He feels strong, his will like iron, but he does not know the true nature of the Perna's cruelty. I cannot let him walk into their trap unprepared. I must warn him. I open the floodgates of my trauma, sending him not just words, but images and feelings, a desperate torrent of the horrors I have endured. I show him how they have kept me alive in this stasis, not out of any mercy, but to slowly drain my life force. I make him feel the leeching sensation of their magic, pulling at the latent power in my blood for their profane rituals. I am a battery for their evil, and they have been slowly draining me for what feels like a lifetime. I also share the fragmented horrors of what has happened to others. I send him the echoes of screams I have heard in my stasis, the flashes of other captives, men and women from raided villages or travellers taken from the mountain passes. The Perna bring them to the clearing, and their terrible experiments are things my mind refuses to fully remember. I can only share the echoes of their pain, a warning of the absolute evil he faces. Do not underestimate them, I plead, pushing the thought with all my might. Their beauty is a mask. They are monsters. I feel his rage intensify as he receives my warning, but there is no fear in him. There is no hesitation. His response is not one of pity, which would feel demeaning and small. Instead, he sends me a burst of pure, unwavering conviction, a promise that cuts through the last vestiges of my despair like a white-hot blade. I will free you. It is not a vague hope or a gentle reassurance. It is a declaration of intent, a warrior's vow from a being I instinctively trust with every fibre of my soul. It is the most real thing I have felt in years. The hope that sparked within me before now bursts into a steady, determined flame. I now believe that this is not a dream. I believe that I might actually be saved. This is the moment I truly feel seen as a person again. The years of being treated as an object, a resource to be used and discarded, have stripped away my sense of self. His focused, protective intent begins to restore it piece by piece. He does not see a specimen. He sees me, Diana. I cling to his mental voice, to the powerful, comforting feeling of his presence, wrapping it around my consciousness like a warm cloak. I push the thought from my mind that I am still terrified and that this will all fade. He will disappear and leave me alone in the darkness once more. But I truly believe that he will not. He is coming for me, and I will be ready.
Chapter 11. Corvac. Night falls like a black shroud over the Praz Mountains. The clearing below is illuminated by the cold, silver light of Protheka's twin moons and the eerie, pulsing blue of the runes on the glass coffin. From my vantage point on the ridge, I have watched the Purna for hours, memorizing their movements, noting the subtle shift in their chant as the moons rise higher. My muscles are coiled, every nerve ending alive with a primal readiness for the violence to come. The time for observation is over. I reach out through the strange, new connection I feel to the woman in the coffin. I focus my entire will into a single, clear thought, a promise and a command. I am coming now. Be ready. I feel a faint, answering flicker of hope and terror from her before I sever the link, needing all of my concentration for what comes next. I slip down from the ridge, moving like a shadow through the forest. A century of training has taught me how to be a ghost, how to place my feet so not a single twig snaps, how to use the wind to carry my scent away from my prey. The Purna are arrogant in their power, confident in the supposed safety of their sacred grove. They have posted only 2 outer sentries, and both are lazy, their attention on the ritual in the clearing, not on the darkness of the woods that surround them. The first sentry is leaning against a tree, her beautiful face turned up toward the moons. I close the distance between us in 3 silent strides. Before she can even register my presence, my hand clamps over her mouth, and with a brutal twist, I snap her neck. She goes limp in my arms without a sound. I drag her body into the deepest shadows at the base of a thicket before circling around the clearing, my movements swift and sure. The second sentry is no more difficult. She is humming along with the chant, her eyes closed in a moment of reverie. She dies, never knowing I was there. With the sentries gone, the path to the clearing is open. The 10 remaining Purna are lost in their trance, their voices woven together in a hypnotic, otherworldly song. The air around them crackles with the raw power they are channeling, the magical ward around the standing stones shimmering like heat haze. I take a deep breath, the cold mountain air doing little to cool the fire in my blood. I am 1 against 10. I am flesh against magic. The odds are impossible. I do not care. I burst from the tree line, not as a man, but as a beast unleashed. A roar rips from my throat, a sound of pure, primal fury that shatters the night's stillness and the Purna's concentration. Their chanting falters as they break their ritual. But I have given them no time to react. I am already moving, my powerful legs eating up the ground between the forest and their sacred circle. I slam into the shimmering magical ward with the force of a battering ram. The impact is agony, a searing pain as the raw magic burns my skin and sends a jolt through my entire body. The barrier holds, but I roar again, this time in defiance, and rake at it with my claws. They are not mere nails. They are manticore claws sharp enough to rend steel. They tear through the shimmering energy, the ward cracking and splintering like ice under a hammer blow. With one final desperate heave, I shatter the barrier completely. The Purna are on their feet now, their shock turning to outrage and fury. Their hands glow with gathering magic, their beautiful faces twisting into masks of hate. But they are too late. Their ritual is broken, their concentration shattered. They expected me to fight them, to engage them as a warrior would. They did not expect me to ignore them entirely. My entire focus is on the glowing glass prison in the center of the clearing. I leap over the remains of their shattered ward in a single powerful bound, my eyes fixed on the woman within. She is my only purpose. I land before the coffin, and without a moment's hesitation, bring my fist down upon its surface with all the strength I possess. The enchanted glass does not shatter like a normal pane. It explodes. Raw magical energy erupts outward in a blinding flash of blue light, throwing me back a step. Crystalline shards, each one glowing with a faint inner light, rain down around me. The Purna's screams of fury are a dissonant shriek in the sudden silence that follows the blast. I ignore them. My eyes are only for the woman who now lies on the cold, bare earth where the coffin once floated. I rush to her side and scoop her limp form into my arms. She is lighter than I expected, her body cold to the touch from her long stasis. But she is real. She is in my arms. As I hold her, I can feel the air around us begin to crackle and burn with the Purna's retaliatory magic. I turn to face them, shielding her body with my own, my claws extended, ready for the fight of my life. I have her. They will not take her back.
Earth is pretty much a desolate wasteland since the orcs came over from Protheka, and being a woman, the best you can hope is to be someone's property. Now, after my curvy body catches Corthar's eye, he'll claim me, and I'll serve him, in any way he pleases.
You're mine now. Listen to this story and more when you get the complete Orc Warriors of Protheka audiobook and ebook bundle.
40 books, 19 audiobooks, 19 ebooks. You even get 1 free novella and 1 free audiobook.
All for a shocking 90% off.
Protheka's magic is eternal, and the complete Orc Warriors of Protheka bundle will bring over 100 hours of that magic to you. Chapter 12. Diana. The promise echoes in the void of my mind, a solid, warm thing I can cling to. I am coming now. Be ready. A force, a thunderclap shatters my world, a shockwave I feel in the very core of my consciousness. The magic that has held me suspended for years explodes, and my mind, my soul, slams back into the body it has so long been separated from. It is not a gentle reunion. It is a violent, agonizing rebirth. The first sensation is the cold, an attack of 1,000 icy needles piercing skin that has felt nothing for an eternity. I gasp, a ragged, painful sound, as my lungs, stiff from disuse, draw in their first real breath. The air itself feels like fire and ice, burning a path down into my chest. Then comes the light. After years of darkness, the silver glow of the moons is a blinding agony, a searing white that makes me cry out and squeeze my eyes shut. Sounds crash over me in a tidal wave, the furious, shrieking screams of the Purna, the deep, primal roar of a beast, the sharp crackle of raw magic. My brain, accustomed to silence, cannot process the overwhelming flood of sensory information. I am drowning, not in water, but in the world itself. Through the chaos, strong arms scoop me up from the ground. The arms are a solid, warm presence in a world that has dissolved into pain and confusion. I clutch at the being holding me, my weak fingers tangling in the rough fabric of his tunic, clinging to him as the only solid thing in existence. He is real. This is real. The thought is both terrifying and wondrous. He is running. The world is a chaotic, terrifying blur of motion, a smear of dark trees and pale moonlight. I press my face against his chest, unable to bear the disorienting rush of images. I can feel the immense power radiating from his body, a furnace of heat against my own deathly cold skin. He moves with an impossible ground-eating speed, his footsteps thudding with a rhythm that is both powerful and graceful. He holds me tight against him, his body a living shield that protects me from the whipping branches and scraping rocks of the forest he charges through. Behind us, I can feel the angry lash of the Perna's magic. The air sizzles with their fury, and I can hear their enraged screams echoing through the trees, growing fainter with every powerful stride my rescuer takes. I cling to him tighter, a tremor of fear running through my already trembling body. He is my only hope, my only shield against the evil that has owned me for so long. I focus on the details I can perceive through my fear and disorientation. The clean, wild scent of pine and something uniquely him, like warm earth and thunderstorms. The steady, thundering beat of his heart against my ear, a rhythm of life and strength that is the most reassuring sound I have ever heard. My mind is still reeling, struggling to catch up with the sudden, violent shift in my reality. One moment, I am a disembodied mind in a timeless void. The next, I am a freezing, terrified woman being carried through a dark forest by a creature of impossible power. I am free. I am being rescued. The reality of it is a fragile, unbelievable thing, a new feeling that struggles to take root in a soul long ploughed with nothing but despair. I allow myself to feel a flicker of hope that I might actually live to see another dawn. I have earned that. The frantic, jarring motion stops as abruptly as it began. The sudden stillness is a relief, the relative quiet of our new surroundings broken only by his ragged breathing and my own shallow gasps. We have reached a sheltered place, a small hollow at the base of a rock outcropping, hidden from the open path by a thick stand of pines. He lays me down with a gentleness that seems at odds with the explosive violence of my rescue. The bed of pine needles he places me on is soft beneath my weak body. He removes his heavy cloak and wraps it around me, and the warmth and weight of it are a profound comfort. His scent clings to the fabric, enveloping me in the feeling of safety I first felt in my mind. Despite the warmth, my body is racked with violent, uncontrollable tremors, a deep-seated shock that I cannot seem to stop. My teeth chatter, and I feel as fragile as a newborn kitten. But a fierce, stubborn part of me refuses to be helpless. I will not be a passive victim any longer. I force my protesting muscles to obey, pushing myself into a sitting position. He is immediately kneeling beside me, offering a water skin to my lips. The water is achingly cold, but it is the most wonderful thing I have ever tasted. As I drink, his gaze falls to my arm, and a low growl rumbles in his chest. I follow his eyes and see a long, shallow cut on my forearm, a bleeding line left by a shard of the shattered coffin. He reaches out, and his large, calloused warrior's hands are surprisingly gentle as he takes my arm to inspect the wound. He tears a strip of cloth from the inside of his tunic and carefully cleans the cut, his touch sending a strange, warm tingle through my skin. In the dim moonlight that filters through the trees, I look up at him. He is a massive, powerful creature, part man and part lion, and his touch is as gentle as his roar was fierce.
Chapter 13. Corvac. The bleeding on her arm has stopped. She watches me, her green-gold eyes wide and searching in the dim moonlight. I see exhaustion and terror in their depths, but beneath it there is a core of strength, a flicker of defiance that calls to something deep within me. I know we cannot stay here. The Perna's rage will not be contained for long. They will be hunting us with all of their dark power. My mate is weak, barely able to stand. But to remain in this hollow is to be captured, and I will not allow that. I rise to my feet, offering her my hand. She looks at it for a long moment, a flicker of distrust in her gaze, before her own small, cold hand slips into mine. Her touch is a jolt, a spark of warmth that travels up my arm and settles deep in my chest. I help her to her feet, her body trembling with a combination of cold and shock. Her legs, unused for what she tells me are years, threaten to buckle beneath her. "We must move," I said. "Where?" she whispered. "We must climb," I said. "'Tis the only way to throw them off our trail." She does not complain. She does not plead for rest. She simply gives me a tight, determined nod, her jaw set. I slip my arm around her waist to support her, and we take our first steps out of the hollow and into the treacherous, moon-drenched landscape of the Praz Mountains. Every step is an effort for her, her breath coming in ragged gasps. But she does not slow me down. She matches my pace as best she can, her resilience a fierce and beautiful thing to behold. Before the first light of dawn breaks, we come to a wide, frozen stream. The ice is a sheet of black glass under the twin moons, the water rushing silently beneath it. This is the chance I have been looking for. Magic follows scent and heat, but the cold of the running water will mask our trail completely. At least for a time. I explain this to her in a low voice, and she listens intently, her eyes sharp and intelligent despite her weariness. I help her onto the ice, my arm a steadying brace as she finds her footing. She stumbles often, her muscles weak and uncoordinated, but her will is a thing of iron. Not once does she fall. She moves with a careful, deliberate grace, her focus absolute. As we reach the far bank, my heightened senses pick up the scent of prey on the wind. It is small, but it is food, and we both desperately need the strength. "Stay here," I whispered. "Do not move." She nods, understanding immediately. I melt into the pre-dawn gloom, my movements silent. The hunt is blessedly short. I return minutes later with a small, white-furred creature, its neck broken cleanly. I expect her to be squeamish, perhaps even frightened by the sight of the dead animal. Many who are not warriors are, but as I lay it on the frozen ground, she simply looks at me, her expression unreadable, and holds out her hand. "Your knife," she said, her voice raspy but firm. I stare at her for a second, surprised, before handing it to her hilt first. Without the slightest hesitation, she begins to help me skin and prepare the meat, her movements economical and sure. She has done this before. This woman, who looks as fragile as a winter flower, is a survivor in her very bones. As the gray light of morning finally arrives, the cold deepens. I find us shelter in a shallow cave set into the side of a cliff, a place well hidden from the path below and with a clear view of the surrounding terrain. It is defensible, and it is here that we can finally risk a small, smokeless fire, using the dry wood I gathered on our climb. I get the fire started while she watches, her arms wrapped around herself, her wary gaze missing nothing. We cook the small amount of meat on sharpened sticks, the scent of it making my own stomach clench with a hunger I have long ignored. We eat in a silence that is not uncomfortable. It is the quiet of two creatures who have survived, who understand the value of a warm fire and a full belly in a world determined to kill them. The shared meal is a simple, primal act, a truce that builds a bond between us stronger than any words. Across the flickering firelight, I watch her. The flames cast dancing shadows across her face, highlighting the delicate line of her jaw and the deep, haunted weariness in her eyes. She's more beautiful than I first realized, a fragile strength etched into every line of her. My mission for Osiris, my vow to find my brothers, they feel like memories from another life. My entire world has narrowed to this small cave, to the fierce, immediate, and all-consuming duty to protect the resilient, fighting woman who is now huddled in my cloak. She finally succumbs to an exhaustion too deep to fight, her head nodding forward before she curls up on the stone floor. I move, my body positioned between her and the cold, dangerous world outside. I will not let anything touch her.
Chapter 14. Diana. Exhaustion is a heavy, leaden thing, a weight that pulls me down into the darkness of sleep. I fight it, terrified to close my eyes and lose sight of my rescuer, my only shield against the world. But my body, after years of unnatural stasis, has reached its limit. Curled in the surprising warmth of the manticore's cloak, with the small fire crackling nearby, and his powerful silhouette guarding the cave, I finally surrender. Finally, I can fall into a sleep that is not a dreamless void, but a true slumber. And in that slumber, my mind betrays me. It takes me back home. The dream begins with a cruel and beautiful lie. I am in my garden, the morning sun is warm on my shoulders, and the air is sweet with the scent of moon blossoms. My hands are stained with rich, dark earth. It all feels so real, so vivid, that a part of my sleeping mind weeps with joy. Ingrid is on the porch, her laughter as bright and clear as a ringing bell, as she sweeps half-heartedly, her mind clearly on the upcoming festival. My mother is humming in the kitchen, the scent of her baking bread wafting through the open doorway. My father is mending a fence near the edge of our yard, his movements strong and sure. I am whole. I am home. The relief brings a lightness in my chest that makes it easy to breathe. "Hurry up with that sweeping," I called out to Ingrid. "I am hurrying," she called back. My mother brings us fresh milk, her smile the warmest thing in the world. This is not a memory, it is a perfect living moment, a gift from a merciful God. I cling to it, savouring every impossible detail, praying that I never have to wake up. The sun is warm, the world is safe, and my family is alive. The sky in my dream darkens with an unnatural speed. The warmth of the sun vanishes, replaced by a sudden biting chill. The villagers' smiles falter and twist into masks of confusion, then terror. A single blood-curdling scream rips through the perfect peace, and the beautiful lie shatters into a million pieces. The nightmare begins again, but this time it is different. I am not a participant. I am a helpless observer, forced to watch the slaughter of my people from a strange, floating perspective. I see the Perna emerge from the shadows, their impossible beauty a terrible mockery in the face of their actions. I see Kale fall, his brave charge cut short by a bolt of black magic. I see my parents, their last defiant stand so small and hopeless against the tide of evil that has washed over our village. I try to scream, to cry out, to warn them, but my dream self has no voice. I am a ghost, a silent witness to the destruction of everything I have ever loved. The smell of burning wood and blood fills the air, a scent so real it makes my phantom stomach churn. As the flames climb higher, licking at the thatched roofs of the cottages, a new figure emerges among the Perna. It is taller than any of them, a looming column of shadow that seems to drink the very light from the fire around it. Its form is indistinct, its features lost in a shifting, roiling darkness. But its presence radiates an ancient, oppressive evil that chills me to my very soul. The Perna, so arrogant and cruel in their own right, seem to defer to it. They part for it as it glides through the burning village, its gaze sweeping over the carnage with an air of cold, satisfied authority. It does not participate in the killing. This is the shadow I have seen in my darkest nightmares. And it is real. I wake with a strangled gasp, my heart hammering against my ribs. My body is drenched in a cold sweat, and I am trembling violently, the phantom chill of the nightmare clinging to me. The transition from the fiery chaos of the dream to the cold, quiet reality of the cave is a dizzying shock. For a terrifying moment, I do not know where I am. Then I see him. He is a massive, dark silhouette keeping watch, his broad shoulders blocking out the pale light of the pre-dawn sky. The primal fear from the dream momentarily transfers to him, this powerful, unknown creature, before I remember. My rescuer, Corvac. The memory of the nightmare, especially the shadowy figure, leaves me deeply shaken. It was more than just a reliving of the trauma. It felt like a revelation, a crucial piece of a puzzle I cannot begin to understand. I have never told anyone about the shadow, not even in my own conscious thoughts. I had pushed it down, convinced it was just a figment of my grief-stricken mind, a nightmare born of terror. But seeing it again, seeing the way the Perna moved around it, I know it was real. It was there. I hug his cloak tighter around me, its warmth and his scent a small comfort against the deep, internal chill. I look at him, his posture one of absolute, unwavering vigilance. He is my only ally in this hostile, terrifying world. Somewhere inside, a desperate, lonely piece of me wants to tell him everything, to share the terrible burden of what I saw. But another part, the part that learned to survive by being silent and invisible, is terrified. Will he believe me? Or will he think I am mad, my mind finally broken by my long years of captivity? The words are caught in my throat, a heavy, unspoken secret that feels as unwelcome as the stone floor beneath me.
Chapter 15. Corvac. I remain a silent sentinel against the coming dawn. The pre-dawn air is thin and cold, carrying the strange, wild scents of the Praj Mountains. Every rustle of leaves, every distant snap of a twig, has my senses on high alert. The Purna are out there, and they will be hunting their stolen prize with a relentless fury. But no harm will come to her. Not while I draw breath. I look back at where she sleeps, a small, still form huddled in the depths of my cloak. The fire has died down to a bed of glowing orange embers that cast a soft, warm light on her face. Even in sleep, she is not at peace. Her brow is furrowed, and a deep tension lines her delicate features. I feel a deep protective instinct wash over me, a feeling that is far more powerful than the simple duty to protect a survivor. It is a primal, possessive urge that is both new and overwhelming to my disciplined mind. This is what it means to find one's mate. It is a fire in the blood, a reordering of the soul around a new center. My mission, the fate of my king and my people, all feel like distant concerns, memories from another life. My world has narrowed to this small, cold cave and the woman sleeping within it. The sight of her soothes me. Then, a soft sound breaks the stillness. A whimper. It is a quiet, broken sound of pain that cuts through my warrior's focus and goes straight to my heart. Her whimpers grow more frequent, more distressed. She begins to twitch in her sleep, her hands clenching and unclenching in the thick folds of my cloak. Her breathing becomes ragged and shallow, the breaths of a hunted animal. The sight of her in such torment ignites a fresh, hot rage within me. The Purna did not just imprison her body. They branded her very soul with their cruelty, leaving nightmares that hunt her even in the safety of my protection. I will make them pay for this. I will make them all pay. Her quiet whimpers escalate into a soft, desperate cry, a sound that tears at me. I cannot stand by and watch her suffer. I move from my post at the entrance of the cave, my heavy footsteps silent on the stone floor. I kneel beside her, my intention to place a gentle hand on her shoulder, to wake her from the nightmare that holds her in its grip. The embers of the fire cast our shadows long and distorted against the cave wall. My large form, meant to be a shield for her, instead casts a looming monstrous shadow over her sleeping form. As my hand reaches for her, her eyes fly open. But there is no recognition in them. There is only the raw, leftover terror from her dream, a wide, unseeing panic. In the dim, flickering light, she does not see her rescuer. She sees a threat. She sees a monster. She sees one of them. Before I can speak, before I can even process the wild fear in her eyes, she moves with a speed that is born of pure, absolute terror. A flash of movement, a sharp, tearing pain in my forearm. I look down in stunned surprise. A deep, ragged gash runs from my wrist to my elbow, my own dark blood welling up and dripping onto the stone floor. A sharpened piece of flint, a tool for survival, is clutched in her small, white-knuckled hand. The shock and the sudden, searing pain trigger my own primal instincts. A low, warning growl rumbles in my chest, an involuntary response to being wounded. For a single, dangerous second, the beast within me wants to retaliate. The growl dies in my throat as I look from my wound back to her face. The raw terror in her eyes is giving way to a new, dawning horror as she recognizes me. The fight drains out of her in an instant. The rock falls from her numb fingers, clattering softly on the floor. Her face crumples, and she is racked by silent, hiccuping sobs of shame and fear. Tears streamed down her pale cheeks, silver in the dying firelight. She is not a threat. She is a terrified, traumatized soul lashing out from a cage of fear. My anger vanishes, burned away by empathy and renewed white-hot fury at her captors. This is what they have done to her. This is the damage they have wrought. Without a word, I tend to my own wound with one hand, tearing another strip from my tunic to bind the gash. With my other arm, I reach for her, gently but firmly pulling her into a steadying embrace. She resists for a moment, stiff with fear and shame, then collapses against my chest, her sobs now audible, shaking her entire body. I hold her, letting her cry, murmuring quiet, reassuring words into her hair. "You are safe," I said. "You are safe with me." I repeat the words until her sobs begin to subside, holding her tightly against me. "They will never touch you again," I vow, and it is the most sacred promise I have ever made. I will give my own life before I let them harm you.
Chapter 16. Diana. His arms are a fortress around me. The violent, shuddering sobs that racked my body have subsided, leaving behind a hollow, aching shame. I attacked him. I wounded the one person who has shown me any kindness in years, the creature who pulled me from a living grave. The mortification is a bitter taste in my mouth, yet I do not pull away from his embrace. I feel safe. His promise echoes in the silence, a vow that soothes the raw edges of my soul. They will never touch you again. The words are a balm, a shield. I believe him. I press my face against the rough fabric of his tunic, inhaling his scent, pine and cold mountain air, and something else, something warm and uniquely him. His warmth is a steady, living thing, seeping into my skin, chasing away the bone-deep chill that has been my constant companion for as long as I can remember. One of his large hands rests on my back, a solid, grounding weight that keeps the lingering terror of the nightmare at bay. I become hyper-aware of his touch. My skin, which has known only the cold, clinical handling of the Perna for years, now registers the gentle pressure of his hand, the strength in his arms, the steady beat of his heart against my cheek. To be held, not as a specimen, but as a person. The contrast is so stark, so overwhelming, it brings a fresh wave of tears to my eyes. I pull back slightly, not out of fear of him, but out of a complicated mix of guilt for the wound I inflicted and a sudden, unaccustomed longing for more of his gentle contact. The air in the cave is suddenly thick with unspoken things. I look at the makeshift bandage on his forearm, at the dark stain of his blood seeping through the cloth. Guilt is a sharp, physical pain in my chest. He risked his life to free me, and I repaid him with violence. I have to say something to explain the terror that drove me to it, but the words are tangled and insufficient. He follows my gaze to his arm, but his expression holds no anger, only a deep, quiet sorrow for what I have endured. He does not pull away, but his hand moves from my back to my shoulder, a gesture of continued comfort. The simple touch is almost my undoing. The tension in the small space between us coils tighter, a strange, new energy from the man, the creature, who holds me. I find my voice, though it is a trembling, broken thing. "I haven't been touched in years," I whispered, the admission a moment of terrifying vulnerability, not without cruelty behind it. I watch his face, fearing what I will see. Pity, disgust, but his bronze-gold eyes hold only a fierce, conflicted emotion I cannot name. I see his discipline at war with something wilder, something primal. He hesitates, his jaw tightening as he fights a battle within himself, and in his hesitation I find a strange courage. I am done being a victim. I am done being passive. I make a choice. I lean into his touch, a small, almost imperceptible movement, a silent invitation. My need for comfort, for connection, for a touch that is not a violation overrides a lifetime of fear. My small movement, a subtle shift of my hips against his, shatters his restraint. A low growl rumbles deep in his chest, no longer laced with anger, but thick with raw, unrestrained need. His eyes, dark and molten, lock onto mine, and his hands cut my face, calloused thumbs brushing away the tears staining my cheeks with a tenderness that contrasts the storm brewing in him. Then he kisses me, and it's not gentle. It's a fierce, desperate claiming, his lips crashing against mine with a hunger that feels like possession, but never violation. His tongue invades my mouth, tasting of salt and heat, urgent and unyielding, as if he's staking a claim born of our shared trauma, our survival, and the unspoken longing that simmered since he shattered my glass prison.
Sorry for the interruption. I know you were gearing up for a steamy scene, but it's way too hot for this platform.
If we want to keep sharing our stories for free, we have to abide by this platform's guidelines.
To get the full unabridged audiobook, go to worldsofprotheka.com.
Browse through unabridged audiobooks, countless ebooks and bundles offered at a discount.
If the thought of me whispering all the dirty details into your ear isn't enticing enough, use discount code YouTube30 to get 30% off of all digital products.
Story after story, audiobook after audiobook, the Worlds of Protheka are waiting for you.
Protheka's magic is eternal.
But unabridged, it's unforgettable. This power, it's like the stories my mother whispered late at night when my father slept, tales of her own mother, a mysterious woman from a faraway land who could make flowers bloom in winter, soothe a fever with a touch. She called them fairy tales. But as I look up at Corvac's face, his eyes wide with shock and awe, his chest heaving as he stares at the fading glow around us, I know with chilling certainty they were not. This power, this light is real, and it's mine.
Chapter 17. Corvac. The golden light fades, leaving the cave in the dim glow of the embers. A new, strange energy hums in the air, a residual power that clings to my skin. It is the energy of Purna magic, and it came from her. I look at Diana, my mate, who is staring back at me with wide, terrified eyes. The passion of moments before is gone, replaced by a chilling, profound shock. She is part of them. The realization hits hard, but my thoughts immediately fly to my brothers. Silus, Tarek, Caspian, Ronan, Lucaris. I see their faces in my mind, and a fresh wave of guilt crashes over me. I swore an oath to them, an oath of reunion, and here I am, sidetracked by a conflict I do not understand, bound to a woman whose heritage is that of our enemies. What would they think of me now? My duty to them, to my king? I am failing on all fronts. We continue our journey in a tense, heavy silence. The unspoken truth of her magic is a chasm between us. With every step, my thoughts are a torment. Are my brothers alive? Are they wounded, alone, fighting for their lives in this hostile world while I walk beside the source of my distraction? My failure as a leader is a heavier burden than any mountain. After 2 days, our meager food supply dwindles to nothing, and the gnawing in my gut is a dull echo of the sharp-toothed guilt in my soul. The hunger is a sharp, persistent ache, but it is the weakness I see growing in her that drives me. I spot a thin curl of smoke against the gray sky, a sign of civilization. It is an outpost, a rough, dangerous-looking collection of buildings carved directly into the face of a cliff. A necessary and terrible risk. I find a defensible position for Diana in a cluster of rocks overlooking the settlement, a place where she can see anyone approaching. "Stay here," I said, my voice low and firm. "Do not move from this spot until I return." She nods, expressing a fear that I share. I spend the next hour scouting the outpost from the ridge. I see hard-faced human traders, a hulking Minotaur mercenary, and a patrol of dark elves, their cruel faces and elegant armor a jarring sight in this crude place. The sight of the elves makes my blood run cold. They are the enemy we came here to face, the slavers who controlled the crystal caves. Are my brothers facing patrols like this one right now? Is Tarek's strength enough against their magic? Is Ronan's fire being extinguished by their cruelty? The thought of them captured, tortured by these sadistic beings, fuels a helpless rage within me. I must go down there, not just for food, but for information. Any rumor, any whisper of other manticore seen in this land would be a sliver of hope I desperately need. I will go in alone, under the cover of darkness. I cannot risk her, but I must risk myself for any chance, however small, of finding my brothers. As night falls, I slip into the outpost. The air is thick with the smell of cheap ale, roasting meat, and unwashed bodies. I move like a ghost through the shadows, my objective to trade a small silver buckle from my armor for food, and, more importantly, to listen. I find a crude tavern and blend into a dark corner, my senses on high alert. I'm listening for any mention of the crystals, of northern wraich, of strange lion-like beasts with wings. But the conversation I overhear freezes the blood in my veins. "Did you hear?" one trapper said to another. "About the bounty?" the second said. "Aye. The witches up in the peaks. Looking for some girl they lost," the first said. "Two human trappers are talking about a bounty placed by the Perna coven from the nearby mountains. They are looking for their stolen prize, a half-breed girl of immense power, and they have placed a magical trace on her." My focus snaps from my brothers to the woman hiding on the ridge. They are not just running from a memory. They are being actively hunted by a magic we cannot see. I retreat from the outpost, the need for food forgotten. A terrible choice now stands before me. My duty and my vow to my brothers is in the north. But my mate, the woman my soul has claimed, is right here, and she is the target of a relentless, magical hunt. To protect her, I must abandon my mission and my brothers. To pursue my mission, I must abandon her. Every path leads to a different kind of failure, different kind of betrayal. It is a crushing, impossible burden. Impossible.
From the depths of the darkness of Protheka,
Or clawing up from the realms of fantasy.
come the most fearsome beasts you have ever seen.
These monsters are done watching from the shadows.
Now, as they step into the light, something unexpected grips them.
Something even they can't fight off.
Love,
Vampires.
demons,
Dark elves.
gods.
Minotaurs. Creatures of light and dark.
They will protect their mates.
Do whatever needs to be done.
Morally grey heroes who will burn the world to protect the women who love them.
10 audiobooks.
Fall into over 60 hours of fantasy romance.
20 ebooks.
Over 1 million words of these brutes who will protect their women.
Even if they might destroy themselves in the process.
Get the immersive Protheka fantasy romance bundle.
For 80% off, right now, dive into Protheka at a once-in-a-lifetime discount.
The first bundle to offer both ebooks and audiobooks on worldsofprotheka.com. Protheka's magic is eternal, and this Romantasy bundle will make it endless. Chapter 18. Diana. I huddle in the darkness, my body wedged between two large cold boulders. From this hiding place, I can see the flickering torchlight of the outpost below, a hive of dangerous activity that makes my skin crawl. Corvac has been gone for what feels like an eternity, and with every passing moment, the fragile sense of safety I felt in his presence erodes, replaced by a cold, familiar fear. The sounds from the settlement, a burst of rough laughter, the sharp crack of a whip, a sudden angry shout, all remind me that the world outside our small, sheltered cave is a place of casual brutality. My mind is a turmoil. The revelation of my own magic, the power that exploded from me is a terrifying new reality. I am part Perna. I am part of the evil that destroyed my family and stole my life. The thought is a bitter poison, a self-hatred so profound it threatens to swallow me whole. And now Corvac, the one who saved me, is down there, in that viper's nest, all because I am too weak to provide for myself. I am a burden, a liability. When he finally returns, moving like a shadow up the mountainside, the relief that washes over me is so intense it makes me dizzy. But it is short-lived. I see his face in the moonlight, and my heart plummets. His expression is grim, his jaw set like stone, and the quiet hope that had begun to blossom in my chest withers and dies. He brings with him no food, no supplies. He brings only bad news. He sits before me, his powerful form radiating a tense, controlled anger. He does not waste time with pleasantries. "What is it?" I asked. "What did you hear?" He tells me what he overheard in the outpost. The Perna have put out a bounty for my return. They have named me their stolen prize. My stomach clenches with a nauseating mixture of rage and shame. To them, I am still just an object, a thing to be owned and reclaimed. Then he delivers the final devastating blow. They have placed a magical trace on me. They are hunting me, not by sight or by scent, but with a magic that I cannot see or feel. We are not running to safety. We are merely running out the clock until they find us. Bitter resignation erupts over me. Of course they would do this. There is no escape. I am a beacon, leading their evil directly to the one person who has tried to save me. I will be the cause of his death. "We must keep moving," he says, his eyes scanning the dark mountainside. Faster and further. A sudden, chilling certainty reveals itself. Running is not enough. We can run until our legs give out, but we can never outrun their magic. A flash of insight, a fragmented memory from my long stasis, breaks through my despair. I remember the sound of their voices, whispering about binding runes, about sympathetic magic, about how a trace must be anchored to its target's own life force. And I realise, with a dawning, terrifying hope, that there may be one way to fight them. "No," I said, my own voice surprising me with its firmness. "Running won't work. They will always find us." Corvac turns to look at me, his bronze gold eyes questioning in the darkness. I see the doubt there, but also a willingness to listen. "Their magic is tied to me," I explain, the idea taking shape even as I speak it. "It is anchored to what I am." It is the first time I have acknowledged my heritage out loud, and the words taste like ash in my mouth. Perhaps the only way to counter Perna magic is with Perna magic. This is the moment. This is the choice. I can continue to fear and despise this part of myself, or I can try to use it. I can use the poison that runs in my veins as an antidote. I see the hesitation in Corvac's face, the deep, instinctual mistrust of the power I am suggesting I wield. He fears what using it might do to me, and I cannot blame him. But he also sees the fierce, desperate determination in my eyes. He sees the logic in my words. After a long, tense silence, he gives a single, curt nod. We move to a more secluded spot, a small basin hidden by a grove of stunted pines. I kneel on the cold earth and try to reach for the power that came to me before. It is a painful, frustrating process. It does not answer my call easily. I gather herbs and small pale stones from the forest floor, materials I vaguely remember the Perna using in their rituals. I close my eyes and focus, trying to piece together the broken fragments of the runes I overheard them chant. Slowly, tentatively, a strange warmth begins to build in my chest. It is a frightening, foreign feeling, yet it is also strangely, terrifyingly my own.
Chapter 19. Corvac. We are on the move again. The knowledge of the magical trace I carry on my shoulders, a constant unseen threat that is far more terrifying than any physical enemy. My senses are stretched to their limit, my eyes scanning the jagged peaks for any sign of movement. my ears straining to pick up any sound that is not the relentless howl of the wind. I am searching not just for Purna, but for any sign of their magic, a shimmer in the air, a wrongness in the shadows. It is an exhausting, unending vigilance. Diana walks beside me, the faint, silvery ward she created shimmering around us like a heat haze. The effort of maintaining it is clearly taking a toll on her. She is paler than before, with dark circles under her eyes that speak of a deep and draining exhaustion. A fierce internal battle rages within me. I need her to use this power, this Purna magic that I instinctively despise, because it is the only thing keeping us hidden. Yet every time I see her falter, every time I see the drain on her life force, a primal rage makes me want to forbid her from ever using it again. I want to protect her from the very thing that is protecting us. Our journey is harder now, more desperate. I lead us away from the lower trails and into the treacherous high passes, hoping the difficult terrain will slow any physical pursuit that might accompany the magical one. We move along a narrow ledge, a sheer drop to our left and a wall of icy rock to our right. The path is barely wide enough for one, and loose scree shifts under our boots with every careful step. The physical danger is a stark and constant reminder of how precarious our survival truly is. I watch her every move, ready to catch her if she falls, my own footing as sure as the mountain itself. She does not falter. Her focus is absolute, her determination a silent, burning fire that I find myself admiring more with every step she takes. We are traversing a particularly dangerous section of the pass. The wind threatens to tear us from the mountainside when I hear it. My manticore hearing, far sharper than any human's, picks up a sound that does not belong here. It is the faint, rhythmic scrape of armored boots on stone, and the soft, metallic clink of weaponry. The sound of trained warriors, of a patrol. My arm shoots out, pressing Diana flat against the rock face. I move in front of her, my body a solid shield, and place a single finger to my lips. Her eyes go wide with fear, but she nods, her body instantly still and silent. I peer around the edge of the rock outcropping that provides our meager cover. A moment later, they appear. Dark elves. There are 5 of them, moving with the silent, economical grace of apex predators. They are tall and unnervingly elegant, their dark armor and long, curved blades a stark contrast to the wild, untamed landscape around them. Their faces are cruel and beautiful, their expressions a mask of arrogant disdain for this world they believe is theirs to command. My hand instinctively goes to the empty scabbard at my hip, a phantom ache for my lost sword. They move closer, their voices a low, guttural murmur in their own tongue. The wind carries their scent to me, a smell of cold iron, and a faint underlying wrongness that speaks of their dark magic. One of them, the leader, stops. He lifts his head, his keen senses having picked up something amiss. His cold violet eyes scan the rock face, and for a heart-stopping second, they seem to lock directly onto our hiding place. I remain perfectly still, my muscles bunched and ready to spring, to fight, to die, to protect the woman trembling behind me. My heart pounds a slow, heavy rhythm in my chest, a war drum counting down my last moments. The dark elf's gaze lingers, a slight frown creasing his perfect features. Then one of his companions says something, and he turns away, continuing down the path. The dark elf patrol disappears around a bend in the path. I wait, counting to 100, my body still a rigid shield over Diana's. Only when I am certain they are truly gone do I allow myself to relax, stepping back from her. I look at her. She is pale, her knuckles white where she is gripping the rock, her entire body trembling from the proximity of the danger. The encounter, as close as it was, has shattered the fragile sense of security her magical ward had given us. The dangers of this land are not just the witches who hunt her, but the cruel masters who rule it. I realize in that moment that I can no longer keep her in the dark. She is not just a survivor I am protecting. She is a partner in this desperate flight, and she has earned the right to know the full truth of what we are facing and why. I help her from the narrow ledge to a more sheltered spot, a small, wind-scoured alcove in the rock face that offers a measure of safety. Once she is seated, her back against the stone, I face her. "Those elves," I begin, my voice low. "They are the reason I am here." She looks at me, her expression a mixture of confusion and fear. I take a deep breath and I tell her everything. I tell her of my home, Osiris, an island of peace and light. I tell her of the Zabel crystals, the lifeblood of my people, and how they are fading, threatening our entire way of life. "My king sent 6 of us through a portal to Protheka on a desperate mission," I explain, "to find more crystals and bring them home." "The crystals are here?" she asks, her voice a near whisper. "They are," I say, my gaze hardening, "in the caves of northern Reich. Caves that are controlled by dark elves like the ones we just saw." I watch as the understanding dawning in her eyes. The full scope of our journey, the true nature of my own desperate quest, settles upon her. She sees now that I am not just a lost warrior, but a man trying to save his entire world, a mission that seems just as impossible as her own fight for freedom. A new kind of silence settles between us, but this one is not born of tension or mistrust. It is a silence of shared understanding, of 2 disparate, desperate paths that have now irrevocably become one.
Chapter 20. Diana. His words hang in the cold air of the alcove, echoing in my mind long after he has finished speaking. Osiris, Zabel crystals, a dying world. It is all too vast, too immense to comprehend. For years my entire world has been the suffocating darkness of the coffin, and before that, the small, simple boundaries of my village. I knew there were other lands, other people, but the idea of other worlds, of portals that connect them, is a concept from a fairy tale, not from reality. Yet, the proof of it is sitting right in front of me, a creature of legend with a story that rewrites the very nature of my existence. He is not just a lost warrior who stumbled upon me by chance. He is a hero on a desperate quest, sent by his king to save his people. The realization shifts my entire perception of him. The raw, primal power I have seen in him is not just that of a wild beast. It is the strength of a dedicated soldier, a chosen champion. The gravity of his mission settles upon me, an almost physical pressure. The fate of an entire race, an entire world, rests on his broad shoulders, and I, with the Perna's magical trace painting a target on my back, am an obstacle. I am a dangerous, time-consuming detour from his sacred duty. I see the deep weariness in his eyes, the tension in his jaw, and I understand that he carries a burden far heavier than just his own survival. He is fighting for everyone he has ever known. The thought makes my own troubles, as all-consuming as they have been, feel smaller somehow. I am not a victim being rescued by a powerful stranger. I am now the companion to a man who holds the fate of a world in his hands, and I am the single greatest threat to his success. The initial shock of his revelation gives way to a burning, insatiable curiosity. My fear and shame are momentarily pushed aside by a desperate need to understand. This creature, this man who has become the centre of my universe, is a complete mystery. I need to know more. I need to know everything. "Osiris," I said, the name feeling strange and foreign on my tongue. "What is it like?" He turns to look at me, and in the faint light, I see his hard warrior's expression soften. A flicker of deep, profound longing passes through his bronze gold eyes. "It is a world of light," he said, "lush and warm, surrounded by a turquoise sea. Our city is built in harmony with the forest, and the air is always filled with the scent of flowers and the sound of music." His description paints a picture so beautiful and so contrary to the bleak grey world around us that it makes my heart ache. It sounds like a paradise, a place of peace, a place like my village before it burned. "And your people?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. What are manticores? A faint, sad smile touches his lips. We are a race of warriors, but also of scholars and artists, he said. We value wisdom and honour above all else. We are not like the creatures of this world. He does not have to say it. I understand. They are not like the cruel dark elves or the monstrous Perna. They are a noble people, and they are dying. The injustice of it is a sharp pain in my chest. He is a good man, from a good place, and this violent, ugly world is going to consume him, just as it consumed my own. I look at the blood-soaked bandage on his arm, a stark reminder of my own terrified violence. Then I look into his weary, honourable face. The pieces of the puzzle click into place, forming a picture that is both terrifying and awe-inspiring. His king sent him here, into this terrible, hostile land, to face the very dark elves who just passed us on the path. He is here to steal the lifeblood of his world from the most dangerous race on the continent. And in the midst of this impossible quest, he found me. He is burdened with saving his world, and now he is burdened with saving me too. The guilt I feel is a heavy stone in my gut, but alongside the guilt, a new feeling begins to take root, a fierce, protective urge of my own. He has been my shield, my protector, my only hope since he shattered my glass prison. But he is not invincible. I see the vulnerability in him now, the crushing weight of his duty, the deep sorrow for the brothers he lost in the storm. He is strong, but even the strongest warrior can be broken by a world like this. The dynamic between us shifts in the cold air of the alcove. He is no longer just a mysterious, powerful rescuer. He is Corvac, a man from a dying paradise, an honourable soldier on a desperate mission, and my only ally. And just as he is my only hope for survival, I am his only ally here, in this hostile corner of his enemy's land. I cannot be a burden. I will not be a liability. I must find a way to help him. I look at him, this man who has risked everything for me, a stranger. A silent vow forms in my heart. I will no longer be a passive survivor, a piece of stolen property to be reclaimed. I will use the Perna magic I hate. I will use the survival skills my father taught me. I will use everything I am and everything I have to help him. His quest is now my quest. Our individual struggles for survival have merged into a shared journey, and I will not let him fail.
Chapter 21. Corvac. I watch her as she absorbs the truth of my mission. The story of my home, of my people, hangs in the cold air between us. I see the flicker of understanding in her eyes, the dawning comprehension of the burden I carry, but it is swiftly followed by a sharp and bitter pang of guilt. She begins to ask questions, her voice soft with a curiosity that is a welcome change from the fear I have grown so accustomed to seeing in her eyes. "Osiris," she said, the name feeling strange and foreign on her tongue. "What is it like?" I open my mouth to answer, to tell her of the warm turquoise sea, of the city built in harmony with the forest, of the scent of flowers and the sound of music. But the words catch in my throat. To speak of home is to speak of the 5 brothers who are not here with me, the brothers I led into that cursed storm. The memories of home are intertwined with memories of them, of training with Tarek in the royal courtyard, of listening to Caspian haggle in the marketplace, of trying to keep Ronan and Lucaris from causing trouble, of long nights spent debating strategy with Silus. To speak of home without them feels like a betrayal, a eulogy I am not yet ready to give. The silence stretches and I see a flicker of concern on Diana's face. The discomfort, the raw grief, must be plain on my own. I cannot speak of my home, of my mission, without feeling the crushing weight of my failure to the men who trusted me with their lives. Turn away from the memories, from the pain, and turn the focus back to her. It is a deflection, a retreat, but it is also a genuine need to understand the woman I am now bound to, the woman for whom I am failing in my duty. Your family, I said, my voice rougher than I intend. You said the Purna took your sister. Tell me about them. Her expression shifts, the curiosity replaced by a deep and familiar sorrow. I see her brace herself, but she does not shy away from the question. She tells me of a kind, strong father and a warm, loving mother who told her fairy tales. And she tells me of her sister, Ingrid, her voice breaking as she describes a girl full of light and laughter and a fierce, unwavering belief in the goodness of the world. As she speaks, I listen, my heart aching for the life that was stolen from her. I watch her face, her hands, her eyes, searching for any sign of the Purna's inherent cruelty. I find none. I see only a profound grief and a strength that was forged in the heart of a loving family. When she falls silent, her story told, I ask the question I truly need answered. And the magic, I said, my voice careful. The light in the cave. Your mother's stories of her own mother's gifts. What do you believe it is? She flinches at the mention of the magic, her gaze dropping to her own hands, expecting to see them glowing with that same terrifying light. She wraps her arms around herself, a small, protective gesture that makes my own hands clench into fists. I want to destroy the people who made her feel this way, who turned a part of her own soul into a source of fear and shame. I don't know, she whispered. I only know that it feels connected, and I know that I am not one of them, Corvac. I would rather die than be like them. Her raw, vulnerable honesty breaks through the last of my ingrained prejudice. I see with an absolute clarity that she is not a witch to be feared. She is a woman grappling with a terrifying identity, a power she never asked for and does not understand. In her, I see a mirror of my own struggle. Just as I am at war with my sense of duty, she is at war with her own nature. Our quests, I realize, are the same. To save our families from the darkness of this world. I reach out, my hand closing gently over hers. She starts at the contact but does not pull away. I know you are not one of them, I said, and my voice is a vow. Your quest to find your sister is as sacred as my quest to find my brothers. We will face it together. The words are a massive step for me, an acceptance that goes against a lifetime of discipline. But as I look at her, at the fragile hope that begins to dawn in her eyes, I know that I have spoken the truth. The tension between us has not vanished, but it has changed. It is no longer a chasm of mistrust, but the shared tension of two people who have found themselves bound together by fate, facing impossible odds. We are a true, if unsteady, alliance. Escape this world and step into one where romance and magic intertwine across realms, with stories that are not just standalone tales, but part of a vast, interconnected universe.
Imagine not just one, but 100 stories, where characters, destinies, and legends cross paths in unexpected ways.
100 audiobooks from the Romantasy 100 book bundle.
These aren't just isolated stories. They share themes, worlds, and threads that make every journey feel part of something grander.
Fated lovers, ancient prophecies, and the delicate balance between power and passion.
Get all of these stories today for a mind-blowing 90% off. That's right, 100 audiobooks for the price of 10.
800 hours of audio where these alpha males prove just how puny the human men of Protheka are. 12 complete series where they show their human women what they've been missing and more.
One-time purchase, lifetime access to a universe of interconnected magic and romance.
Protheka's magic is eternal. With the Romantasy 100 book bundle, your pleasure will be too.
Chapter 22. Diana. We move through the mountains, a silent two-person army against a hostile world. Corvac's vow to help me find answers about my family, about Ingrid, has changed everything. A new and unfamiliar feeling has taken root in my soul, displacing the despair that has lived there for so long. It is purpose. I am not just running from a terrible past. I am moving toward a fragile, desperate future. A future that might still hold my sister. My mind is consumed with thoughts of her. I replay my last memories of Ingrid, no longer as a source of pure, unadulterated pain, but as clues to a mystery I must solve. I see her on the porch, her blue eyes sparkling with dreams of the harvest festival. I see the Perna with silver hair grab her, her expression one of cold appraisal, not simple malice. The words Corvac and I have shared echo in my mind. The others they killed, but her they took. Why? Was it because she was younger? Or was it something else? This burning need for answers solidifies into a cold, hard resolve that settles deep in my bones. Hiding and running, cowering behind my magical ward, will never bring me closer to finding her. To get answers, I cannot be a victim. I cannot be prey. I must become a hunter. I must become strong enough to face the Perna not as their escaped specimen, but as a threat they are forced to acknowledge. That night, as we sit by the fire, I know I can no longer be silent about the shift that has happened within me. Corvac needs to understand that my goal is no longer simply survival. I wait until we have eaten our meagre meal of roasted roots. Then I look him directly in the eye, my gaze unwavering. I don't just want to hide from them, Corvac, I said, my voice clear and steady. Hiding won't tell me where they took Ingrid, or why. I need to be strong enough to face them, to make them give me the answers I need. The words hang in the air between us. I see a flicker of surprise in his bronze gold eyes, but it is followed by a deep, warrior's understanding. He sees the change in me, the hardening of my resolve into a sharp, focused point. Rage is a dangerous weapon, Diana, he said. It can burn the one who wields it as easily as their enemy. This is more than rage, I countered, my own voice hardening. This is a quest. Just like yours. You fight for your people. I fight for my sister. I lean forward, my hands clenched into fists. You are a warrior. You have been training your entire life to fight. I have been a prisoner. But I have a weapon inside of me, this magic. Teach me, Corvac. Teach me not just how to control it, but how to use it. Teach me how to be a warrior so I can find my sister. Corvac studies me for a long, silent moment, his expression unreadable in the flickering firelight. I see the conflict in him, the protector warring with the teacher. But he also sees the iron resolve in my eyes, the purpose that now gives me strength. Finally, he gives a single, slow nod. Control comes from purpose, not from emotion, he said, his voice grave. Your rage is a wildfire. Your love for your sister, your need to find her. Let that be the anchor for your power. He has me sit cross-legged before the fire, my back straight, my hands resting on my knees. Close your eyes, he commands. Find the power inside you. Do not think of the Perna. Do not think of your anger. Think only of Ingrid. Let your need to find her be the vessel for your magic. I do as he says. I push away the burning, chaotic feelings of hate and fear. Instead, I fill my mind with an image of my sister's smiling face, with the sound of her laughter, with the fierce, protective love that fills my heart. I reach for the power inside me, not with a demand, but with a focused plea. And this time, it answers. It is not a wild, uncontrollable flood, but a steady, warm current that flows through me. I channel it, as he has taught me, down my arm and into the palm of my hand. I open my eyes. Floating in my palm is a small, sustained ball of soft white light, a tiny, defiant star in the overwhelming darkness of the mountains. I look at this small manifestation of my power, and I see it not as a curse, or even just as a weapon. I see it as a key. It is the key that might unlock the truth of my sister's fate.
Chapter 23. Corvac. We have a new routine. By day, we travel, pushing ever northward through the bleak and unforgiving mountains. But when night falls and we make camp, I watch her now as she sits before our small fire, her eyes closed in concentration, a small, steady ball of light held perfectly in the palm of her hand. A week ago, the same power exploded from her in a chaotic, terrifying burst. Now she commands it with a quiet, growing confidence that stirs a deep sense of pride within me. She is a remarkable student. Her will is a thing of iron, and she absorbs every lesson with a fierce, unwavering determination. I teach her as I would any new warrior of Osiris, with patience, but with an expectation of discipline and control. We work on holding the light, on shaping it, on creating small defensive shields of force that shimmer in the air for a few heartbeats before collapsing. Each small success brings a spark of triumph to her eyes, and with it I see the survivor she was forced to be giving way to the warrior she is choosing to become. The training is a new source of torment for me. It requires a proximity, contact that is a constant, agonizing test of my discipline. I have to correct her stance, my hands on her shoulders, feeling the surprising strength in her small frame. I guide her hands, my fingers brushing against hers, and a jolt of pure, possessive fire shoots up my arm. The scent of her, of wood smoke and pine and something uniquely her own, fills my senses, a distraction that is far more dangerous than any physical threat. I am fighting a losing battle against my own desires, a battle I am not accustomed to, a battle I no longer wish to win. The weather in these mountains turns with a sudden, vicious speed. One moment, the sky is a clear, cold gray. The next, a fierce wind is howling down from the peaks, carrying with it a blinding wall of snow. The temperature plummets, and the blizzard is upon us in minutes. Our small, open cave offers little protection from the driving snow and the biting cold. I know that if we stay here, exposed to the elements, Diana's fragile, recovering strength will not last the night. We must find better shelter, and we must find it now. I pull her close, my body shielding her from the worst of the wind, and we push on through the storm. It is a desperate, stumbling journey, the world reduced to a maelstrom of white. Just as my own hope begins to falter, I spot it through the swirling snow, a dark, unnatural shape against the side of the mountain. It is a small, abandoned hut, likely built by a hunter or trapper long ago. It is a godsend. I force the crude wooden door open, and we stumble inside, collapsing into the relative quiet and stillness of the small one-room shelter. The hut is small, intimate, and it forces us even closer together. I manage to get a fire started in the crumbling stone fireplace, its warmth slowly pushing back the life-threatening chill. The storm rages outside, a wild symphony of wind and snow, trapping us together in the small, flickering bubble of firelight. The cramped space magnifies everything between us. The unspoken attraction, the charged glances, the accidental brushes of skin as we move around the small space. It all becomes a palpable, heavy tension in the air. I watch her as she huddles by the fire, her face illuminated by the flames, and my internal conflict reaches a fever pitch. My mission, my duty, my king, they are all abstract concepts, a world away. She is here, she is real, and she is becoming my entire world. The tension finally breaks. She looks up at me from across the fire, her green-gold eyes full of a question she does not dare to speak. I see my own fierce, desperate longing reflected there. In that moment, the war within me ends. My discipline, my guilt, my sacred duty, they all fall away, defeated by a need so profound it eclipses everything else. I cross the small space between us in 2 strides and kneel before her. I reach out and cup her face in my hand, my thumb gently brushing across her cheek. She leans into my touch, her eyes fluttering shut, a soft sigh escaping her lips. This time is different. The first time in the cave was a chaotic collision born of shock and desperation. This is a choice. It is a conscious, deliberate surrender to the bond that has been pulling us together since the moment I first saw her. I kiss her, not with the frantic desperation of our earlier moments, but with the deep, consuming tenderness that lays bare every unspoken feeling in my heart. Her lips are soft, warm, yielding under mine, tasting faintly of the wild berries we shared by the fire. The kiss is a confession, a vow, each slow brush of my tongue against hers, a testament to the depth of my love. She responds with a passion that mirrors my own, her arms wrapping around my neck, fingers threading into my hair, pulling me closer until there's no space left between us. This is no longer the touch of a rescuer and a victim. It's raw, real, the touch of a man and his mate, bound by something deeper than words. As much as Samara and I want to finish what these two characters have started, it looks like this chapter is about to get too hot for this platform to handle.
Unfortunately, we have to pause here because their guidelines won't allow us to reveal the spiciest details.
To keep bringing you these free audiobooks, we have to follow their rules.
But don't worry. You can experience the full, unabridged version over at worldsofprotheka.com, where the boundaries of passion and fantasy collide.
Use code YouTube30 for 30% off any of our unabridged audiobooks set in the rich and immersive worlds of Protheka.
Protheka's magic is eternal.
With these scenes, it will be unforgettable.
Chapter 24. Diana. I wake to a profound and unfamiliar quiet. The storm that raged outside the small hunter's hut has passed, leaving a deep, muffled silence in its wake. Through the single, grimy window pane, I can see a world made new, covered in a thick, pristine blanket of fresh snow. The early morning light is soft and grey, filtering through the trees and into our small shelter. I am wrapped in Corvac's arms, his heavy, sleeping form a warm, solid wall at my back. His breath is a steady, even rhythm against my hair, and his heartbeat, which I can feel through his chest, is a slow, powerful drumbeat that feels like the very rhythm of life itself. A feeling of peace, so complete and so foreign it almost makes me weep, settles over me. The ever-present knot of fear and tension that has lived in my stomach for years has finally, miraculously, loosened its grip. In the safety of his embrace, something inside me that I thought had been burned to ashes with my village. I no longer am alone. I study his face, the fierce leonine lines of it softened in sleep. I marvel at the contrast between the raw power he possesses and the incredible gentleness with which he holds me. A new fear, sharp and piercing, cuts through the peace. It is not the fear of being captured, but the fear of losing this, of losing him. He has a mission, a duty to his people that is far more important than one lost half-breed human girl. Sooner or later, he will have to leave me to complete it. The thought is an icy shard in my heart, and I press myself closer to him, trying to absorb enough of his warmth and strength to last a lifetime. For now, in this quiet moment, he is mine, and I am his. It is a fragile, impossible gift, and I am terrified of it being taken away. The warmth of his body and the deep, hypnotic rhythm of his breathing lull me back toward the edge of sleep. I do not fight it. As I drift, my mind does not descend into the familiar, blessedly empty void. A dream takes hold, but it is not the fiery, traumatic memory of my village. This is something new. I am standing on the deck of a ship I have never seen before, its sails emblazoned with the emblem of a horned beast. The deck pitches violently beneath my feet, and the air is filled with the roar of a furious, unnatural sea. I am an invisible observer, a ghost floating above the chaos. I see Corvac, his face grim, his body braced against the assault of the waves. He is not alone. There are 5 other manticores with him, all of them fighting with a desperate courage against the storm's fury. The sky above is a boiling cauldron of black and green clouds, and the lightning that rips through them. I am witnessing the storm that shipwrecked him, the event that brought him to me. My dream gaze is pulled upward toward the engulfing storm, and I see it. It is the same entity from my village nightmare, a colossal form made of living shadow and roiling storm clouds, its eyes twin voids of cold, ancient starlight. I feel its ancient, malevolent intelligence, its specific, focused intent on the ship. I watch in silent horror as it commands the waves, raising an impossible wall of water to smash the vessel, an act of deliberate, calculated execution. I wake with a sharp, strangled gasp, the terrifying images from the dream vivid and burning in my mind. The ship splintering apart, the manticores thrown into the churning sea, the cold, triumphant presence of the shadow watching it all. Corvac is awake instantly, his body tensing, his arms tightening around me in a protective reflex. "What is it?" he asked. "Are you hurt?" I pull away from him, sitting up and pushing the tangled hair from my face. My heart is pounding, but it is not with the helpless terror of my previous nightmares. This is different. This is a crucial piece of the puzzle. I turn to face him in the dim morning light. "I had a dream," I said, my voice trembling but clear. "I was on your ship. I saw the storm, and I saw the shadow in the clouds. It was the same one, Corvac. It was the same shadow I saw in my village the day the Perna attacked." He listens intently, his expression growing grim, the muscles in his jaw tightening. "The old legends on Osiris called it the Devourer of Skies," he said. "The Perna had a name for it too," I whispered, a cold memory surfacing. "I heard them speak of it in my stasis. They called it their patron of shadows." We look at each other, the chilling truth settling between us. Our enemies are not separate. They are all connected, all serving this one, ancient entity. "It is not just a storm, and not just a shadow," I said. "No," he agrees, his gaze as hard as flint. "It is the storm shadow. Our enemy has a name, and it is a force far greater than a coven of witches. Our personal fight for survival has just become part of a much older and much darker war."
Chapter 25. Corvac. Diana's dream revelation hangs between us, a chilling new truth that has reshaped the landscape of our desperate flight. It is not just the Perna who hunt us. We are prey in a much larger, darker game, pursued by a shadowy entity that commands the very storms. The knowledge is a cold weight in my gut, but it also brings a strange clarity. Our enemies are connected, which means our fight is a shared one. We are no longer two survivors running from separate horrors. We are soldiers in the same war. This new understanding changes our dynamic. For days, we travel with a renewed and heightened caution. Her masking spell, the fragile bubble of Perna magic she weaves around us, is now our most vital defense. I watch her practice her control each night, my mistrust of her power warring with my growing admiration for her command of it. The faint, silvery light she summons is no longer a frightening reminder of her bloodline. It is our shield, our only hope of remaining hidden. Her ward grows stronger, more stable with each passing day, and I can feel the subtle way it seems to bend the light and muffle the sound around us. After 4 days of hard travel with no sign of pursuit, a fragile sense of relief begins to take root in my chest. There have been no distant screeches, no unnatural shadows in the sky, no feeling of magical eyes upon us. Her spell, as imperfect and draining as it is for her, is working. The constant crushing pressure of being actively hunted begins to ease, and I allow myself to breathe. The relief is a heady, unfamiliar sensation, and it allows a different kind of awareness to surface. Not of danger, but of the woman who walks beside me. That evening I find us a perfect place to make camp. It is a secluded hollow, a natural bowl in the mountainside surrounded by a thick stand of snow-laden pines that shields it from the wind and hides it from view. A light, peaceful snow has begun to fall, the flakes drifting down through the still air, and the silence of the high mountains is a deep and profound comfort. Right now, I feel we are truly safe, if only for one night. I build a larger, more confident fire than I have dared to before, its warmth and light a defiant bastion against the encroaching darkness. As we huddle by the fire, eating a brace of small birds I managed to hunt, the release from our constant tension allows for something new to emerge between us. A quiet conversation begins, hesitant at first. "Tell me about the festival," I said. "We would hang colored lanterns in the trees," she tells me, her voice soft with a mixture of sorrow and fond memory. "And there would be music and dancing." As she spoke, I saw not just the traumatized survivor, but a glimpse of the young woman she was before her world was destroyed, a woman full of life and light. I remember one time when I was younger, I tried to race my brother Caspian. It was a disaster. I ended up covered in mud, and he laughed about it for a week. We were at our grandmother's farm, and it had rained heavily the night before. The ground was slick and treacherous, but I, in my youthful exuberance, declared it the perfect track for a race. Caspian, ever the pragmatist, warned me, but I was too caught up in the thrill of potential victory to listen. I say, "I can believe that to be true," she says playfully. "The race started," I continued, and I immediately took the lead, splashing through puddles with reckless abandon. Caspian, more cautious, navigated the terrain with a surprising grace. Then came the turn, a particularly muddy patch near the pigsty. I went for it, thinking I could power through. Instead, my feet slipped out from under me, and I landed face first in a glorious, squelching mess of mud. "Pride always comes before a fall," she giggled. Caspian, I continued, delighted by the joy my story was bringing her, who had been trailing just behind, stopped dead in his tracks. For a moment, he just stared, and then a slow grin spread across his face, followed by a hearty laugh that echoed across the fields. He offered me a hand, still chuckling as I peeled myself out of the mud, a vision of brown from head to toe. Her laughter was a drug that washed over me. I tried to be annoyed, but even I had to admit it was pretty funny. The smell of mud and pigs clung to me for the rest of the day, and Caspian, true to his word, brought it up at every family dinner for the next 7 days. It became a running joke, a testament to my ill-fated attempt at competitive racing. And to this day, whenever it rains, Caspian will inevitably bring up the mud race, a mischievous twinkle in his eye. I concluded. The shared laughter bridges the final gap between us, extinguishing the last embers of mistrust and fear. The air in the hollow is no longer charged with danger, but with a deep, undeniable affection. I look at her across the fire, the way the flames dance in her eyes, and the careful walls I've built around my own heart crumble to dust. The pull I have felt toward her from the very beginning is no longer a confusing primal instinct at war with my duty. It is a simple, profound, and all-consuming truth. I move to her side as I settle beside her in the secluded hollow. The fire nearby flickers, casting a warm glow against the falling snow, a silent curtain shielding us from the world. She turns to me, her eyes soft, unguarded, shimmering with a warmth that pulls me in like a tide. I lean closer, my breath catching, and press my lips to hers. This kiss is different. Not fueled by desperation or loss, but by a deep, unspoken promise. It's slow, tender, a gentle exploration of lips and breath, tasting faintly of the mint tea we shared earlier. Each brush of her mouth against mine sends a quiet spark through me, grounding me in her presence. Her hands rise, fingers soft but steady, cupping my face with a tenderness that makes my chest ache. I deepen the kiss, my tongue tracing her lips, seeking more. She opens to me with a soft moan, her tongue meeting mine in a slow, sensual dance that feels like a vow. My hands find her waist, pulling her closer, her body pressing against me, soft curves molding to the hard lines of my chest. Her heartbeat thrums against me, quick and alive, mirroring my own. The layers of our clothing, scarves, coats, sweaters, feel like a barrier I'm desperate to breach, but I savor the anticipation, the heat building between us. We sink to the blankets spread on the snow-dusted ground, the fire's warmth a faint counterpoint to the chill. I peel away her coat, her scarf, my fingers trembling with reverence as I uncover her. Her skin glows in the firelight, pale and luminous, a canvas begging to be touched. I kiss her jaw, her throat, lingering at the pulse point where her heartbeat flutters under my lips. Her breath hitches as I nip at the sensitive hollow of her collarbone, and her hands tug at my shirt, pulling it free. Her fingers explore my chest, tracing scars and muscle with a hunger that mirrors mine, her touch igniting a fire under my skin. This scene is about to get too steamy for this platform's comfort. As much as we'd love to keep going, their guidelines say we need to stop here.
To continue releasing these free audiobooks on this platform, we've got to play by the rules.
The passion doesn't end here.
Visit worldsofprotheka.com to hear the full, uncut version of this fantasy romance, and every daring moment that YouTube can't handle.
Use code YouTube30 for 30% off unabridged audiobooks in the Worlds of Protheka.
Don't let YouTube hold you back. Immerse yourself in a world of magic, danger, and unfiltered passion.
Protheka's magic is eternal.
Listen unabridged and you'll never want to go back.
I think I may be in love with you, I confess. Her breath catches in her chest. She does not speak. She does not pull away. Instead, she holds me tighter, a silent, powerful answer that is more than enough.
Chapter 26. Diana. I am nestled in Corvac's arms, his confession a warm, glowing ember in my heart. I think I may be in love with you. The words, so rough and hesitant, were the most beautiful I have ever heard. The world outside our small, secluded hollow feels a universe away. I am not a survivor, not a prisoner, not a half-breed witch. I am just a woman, held by the man she is beginning to love, and the world is perfect. Then the air shifts. The change is subtle at first, a sudden unnatural drop in temperature. A wrongness seeps into the peaceful atmosphere, a cold, cloying feeling. Corvac feels it too. He goes from a soft, sleeping warmth to a rigid, coiled readiness in a single heartbeat, his head lifting, his nostrils flaring as he tastes the air. The fire in front of us sputters and dims, its cheerful orange flames turning a sickly, weak blue. The forest around us begins to warp and twist into a nightmare. The tall, snow-laden pines bend at impossible angles, their branches reaching down like skeletal claws. The shadows beneath them deepen and writhe, coiling into menacing, shifting shapes that are not cast by any fire or moonlight. The soft white snow that falls from the sky turns to a rain of black, stinging ash that hisses as it touches the ground. The very air becomes thick and oppressive, filled with faint, malicious whispers that slither into my ears. This is their magic. They have found us, and from the distorted darkness at the edge of the clearing, they emerge, their eyes glowing, their beautiful faces twisted into hungry, triumphant smiles. Corvac is on his feet before I can even draw a breath to scream. He shoves me behind his powerful body, his form a solid wall of muscle and resolve between me and the nightmare. A roar rips from his throat, a sound of pure, leonine fury that challenges the unnatural quiet. I see his hands change, his fingers thickening, his nails extending into long, curved claws that are as black as obsidian. He is no longer just the gentle man who held me moments ago. He is a beast of legend, a creature of righteous rage. "Stay behind me," he snarls, and then he charges. He throws himself into the fight, a whirlwind of tawny fur and gleaming claws. The Perna, so confident in their magic, are taken by surprise by the sheer ferocity of his physical assault. He moves with a speed and grace that should be impossible for a creature his size, tearing through their illusions. I watch in terrified awe as he engages them, a chaotic, deadly dance of claws and dark magic. 2 of the witches fall in the first few seconds, their surprised screams cut short. But there are too many of them. The others regroup, their magic lashing out, bolts of black energy that sizzle through the air. I know I cannot just hide. I am not that helpless girl anymore. While Corvac creates a desperate diversion, I focus, trying to remember his lessons, trying to find my own power amidst the overwhelming chaos and my own paralysing fear. I reach for the magic inside me, trying to unravel their illusions, to push back against the oppressive, terrifying atmosphere they have created. But their power is immense, a tidal wave of ancient, practiced evil. As I strain to form a simple defensive ward, a direct blast of their energy strikes me. It is a cold, malevolent force that slams into my chest, knocking me to my knees and driving the air from my lungs. I am on the ground, gasping for breath, my vision swimming. The Purna's magic is a chilling poison, seeping into my bones, leaving me weak and disoriented. The whispers in the air intensify, telling me I am worthless, that I should give up, that I belong to them. Through the swirling black ash, I see Corvac fighting, a magnificent, desperate beast, holding 3 of them at bay. But another Purna, the silver-haired leader, is circling around behind him, her eyes glowing with triumph, a spear of crackling black energy forming in her outstretched hand. He does not see her. He is going to die. He is going to die for me. The thought is a bolt of pure, white-hot rage that burns away my fear, my pain, my despair. Number. I will not let them have him. I am not the frightened girl from the village. I am not their specimen. I am not a victim to be rescued. I am a fighter, determined not to be taken alive, and even more determined to protect Corvac. I push back. I don't try to summon the small, controlled light from my lessons. I dig deeper, reaching past the fear and the discipline, and I pull on the raw, wild, untamed power that seems to lurk in me. It is an act of pure will, a desperate primal scream from my very soul. I feel the power answer my call, a burning flood of energy that surges through my veins. I get to my feet, my body trembling with the sheer force of it. I raise my hand, not in defence but in attack. A raw, untamed blast of white gold light, the very essence of my life force, explodes from my palm, aimed directly at the witch who is about to kill my mate.
Chapter 27. Corvac. The fight is a maelstrom of claws and dark magic. I am locked in a brutal dance with 3 of the witches, their combined power a battering ram against my defenses. A bolt of cold energy slams into my shoulder, sending a shock of numbing pain down my arm, and I grunt, forcing myself to push through it. I am wounded, outnumbered, and beginning to tire. But for every blow I take, I give one back, my claws tearing through their shimmering magical shields and finding the soft flesh beneath. My leonine roar is a constant challenge to their arrogant power, a promise of the violence I will inflict upon them for touching what is mine. Through the chaos I see her, the silver-haired leader, the one who called Diana a specimen. She is circling the fight, her eyes glowing with triumph, a spear of crackling black energy forming in her outstretched hand. She's behind me, her spell aimed directly at my back. I'm trapped, unable to turn and face her without exposing myself to the 3 witches in front of me. A cold knot of despair tightens in my gut. I have failed. I brought her out of one prison only to lead her to her death alongside me. Then the world erupts in a flash of brilliant white gold light. It is not the cold, corrupt magic of the Purna, but something warm, pure, and overwhelmingly powerful. The blast slams into the silver-haired witch, throwing her backward with a shriek of shocked pain, her half-formed spell dissolving into harmless sparks. The sheer force of the light momentarily stuns the other Purna, their attacks faltering. I whip my head around and see Diana. She is on her feet, her hand outstretched, her green gold eyes blazing with a golden fire I have never seen. Awe, terror, and a fierce, soaring pride crash through me. This is her power, and she is wielding it to save me. The golden light fades, but its effect lingers. The Purna's concentration is shattered. The nightmarish illusions they had woven around the hollow flicker and die, the twisted trees and writhing shadows dissolving to reveal the simple, snow-covered clearing once more. The sudden return to reality seems to disorient the witches, their perfect coordination broken. This is the opening I need. This is the opening she has given me. With a fresh roar, I seize the moment, surging forward with a renewed strength fueled by a potent mixture of rage and hope. The three witches before me are no longer a cohesive unit. They are panicked, their attacks now wild and disorganized. I am a whirlwind of fury. My claws find their mark again and again. One witch falls, a deep gash across her chest. Another stumbles back, her arm hanging at a broken angle. I am a beast of Osiris, a creature of honor. But in this moment, defending my mate, there is no honor, only a brutal, bloody calculus of survival. I am a living wall, a barrier of claws and fury between them and her. I risk a glance over my shoulder. Diana is not idle. She is chanting now, her voice low but clear, her hands weaving intricate, glowing patterns in the air. The small, controlled light she practiced before is nothing compared to this. She is gathering immense power, the air around her crackling, the snow at her feet beginning to melt from the sheer energy she is summoning. I do not know what she is planning, but I understand my role with absolute clarity. I must hold the line. I must buy her the time she needs, no matter the cost. The remaining Purna realize the true threat is not me, but the small, determined woman behind me. Their focus shifts. Their attacks become more desperate, no longer aimed at killing me, but at getting past me. Two of them charge at once, their hands blazing with dark energy. I meet them head-on, my body absorbing the punishing blows of their magic. A deep gash is torn along my ribs, and the pain is a sharp, white-hot fire. But I do not give ground. I will die here before I let them pass. My mistrust of her Purna heritage, the deep-seated prejudice that has been a quiet poison between us, is burned away in the heat of this battle. I see her now not as a witch, not as one of them, but as a warrior. She is my partner in this fight, as fierce and determined as any manticore I have ever fought beside. I'm putting my life, our future, entirely in her hands, in the very power that I once feared. It is a moment of absolute, unconditional trust. I look back at her one last time. She is the center of a vortex of glowing energy, her hair whipping around her, her eyes closed in deep concentration. She is magnificent. I turn back to face the advancing Purna, a bloody, defiant grin spreading across my face. I do not know what spell she is weaving. I hope it will be enough. But as I brace myself for the next assault, I feel no fear. I have complete faith in her. I will hold this line for as long as it takes.
Chapter 28. Diana. I see him, a magnificent wounded lion holding the line against a tide of darkness. He is bleeding from a dozen different wounds, his movements growing slower, but he does not yield. He is buying me time. Time I must not waste. The power I summoned, the raw golden light that saved him from a killing blow, still thrums in my veins, a wild and terrifying river of energy. But a wild river cannot build a dam. I need control. I need a weapon. My mind races, desperately searching through the fragmented memories of my long imprisonment. I sift through the years of hearing their hissing voices, their endless, hypnotic chanting as they maintained the spell on my coffin. The runes they carved into the glass, the words they spoke to bind my life force, they are all there, burned into my memory. A desperate, brilliant idea takes hold. The very magic they used to cage me can be used to trap them. The lock can be reforged into a key and the key into a weapon. I close my eyes, shutting out the chaos of the battle. I focus inward, calling on every scrap of magical knowledge I unknowingly absorbed. The words of their binding chant come to my lips, but I twist them, reversing their meaning, turning a spell of containment into a spell of petrification. I feel the power answer my call, the golden light of my own life force weaving together with the dark, ancient structure of their magic. My hands move on their own, tracing glowing, complex patterns in the air. A vortex of energy builds around me, and I feel both terrified of its immensity and fiercely, savagely powerful. I open my eyes. Corvac is on one knee now, a deep gash on his ribs weeping blood onto the snow. The Perna are closing in, their faces alight with cruel, triumphant smiles. They are about to overwhelm him. I have only one chance. I pull all of the power I have gathered into my chest, a burning, incandescent sun of my own making. With a raw scream that is a mixture of all my pain, my grief, and my rage, I unleash it. The spell does not fly from my hands as a simple blast. It erupts outward as a net of golden, runic light. It moves with impossible speed, ignoring Corvac completely, and slams into the two witches who are closest to him. They shriek, a sound of pure agony and utter disbelief that is cut short with a horrifying, grinding crack. Their beautiful, graceful forms contort and twist, their limbs locking at unnatural angles. Their luminous skin hardens and thickens, the colour draining away to be replaced by a sickly, mottled stone grey. They are frozen in place, their faces eternal masks of their final moment of terror. The spell has worked. They are no longer living things. They are grotesque statues, a horrifying monument to their own evil. The remaining Perna, including the silver-haired leader, stop dead in their tracks, their mouths agape, their attacks forgotten. They stare, first at their fallen sisters, and then at me. Their expressions are no longer of arrogant cruelty, but of pure, unadulterated shock and fear. The silver-haired leader looks at me, and I see fear in her cold, violet eyes. She recognizes her own magic, twisted and turned back against her with a power she does not understand. I am no longer their specimen, no longer their stolen prize. I am an unknown, a monster of their own creation that has just bared its teeth. "This is not over, half-breed," she hisses, her voice dripping with a venom that is now laced with that fear. She makes a sharp gesture, and she and the remaining Perna retreat, their forms dissolving back into the writhing, unnatural shadows from which they came. The clearing falls silent. The oppressive magic dissipates, and the night is once again just a quiet, snow-filled wood. The only sounds are the soft crackle of our dying fire and Corvac's harsh, ragged breathing. We are alive. We are alone. The moment the last of them vanishes, the immense power that has been flooding through me is gone. The magical backlash hits me, a violent, ripping sensation. My very soul is being torn from my body. All of my strength, all of my energy, is ripped away in an instant. The world tilts violently on its axis. My vision swims with a dizzying kaleidoscope of black spots. My knees buckle, no longer able to support my own weight. I am falling. Strong arms catch me before I hit the ground. Corvac is there, wounded and bleeding, but holding me. I collapse into his embrace, the familiar, safe scent of him filling my senses, a grounding anchor in my spinning world. His solid form is the last thing I register. My final thought before the darkness claims me is not one of fear, but of a single, soaring, triumphant realization. We survived. Together.
Chapter 29. Corvac. She is a dead weight in my arms. The moment the last of the Perna vanishes, the immense golden power that had blazed from Diana extinguishes, and she collapses. I catch her before she hits the ground, my own wounds and exhaustion forgotten in a fresh surge of adrenaline, and fear for her. I hold her close, my heart hammering against my ribs as I check for her pulse. She's breathing, her pulse a faint, thready beat against my thumb. She is not dead, only unconscious, the magical backlash having drained her completely. I hold her for a long moment, simply absorbing the fact that we are alive. I look around the clearing. The two grotesque statues, their faces frozen in masks of terror, stand as a chilling testament to her power. The victory feels hollow. This was a battle for survival, not honor, and it was won at a great cost to her. And as I stand here holding my mate, a fresh wave of grief for my brothers crashes over me. This victory is mine and Diana's alone, but my true unit, my sworn kin, is broken and scattered. My gaze falls to my own wounds. The deep gash along my ribs is the worst, a deep, angry tear that still weeps blood. I know that if I do not tend to it properly, it will fester. We cannot stay here. They will be back, I whispered to the unconscious Diana. I looked down at her pale, still face, and a new vow, harder than iron, forms in my soul. She will never be taken again. But to keep that vow, and to have any hope of fulfilling my first vow to my brothers, we need a real shelter, a place to recover and gather information. With a grunt of pain, I carefully adjust her weight in my arms and stand. Every muscle screams in protest, and the gash in my side sends a fresh, white-hot spike of agony through me. But the feeling of her small, unconscious body held securely against my chest is my only motivation. I am her shield. I am her protector. I will not falter. I choose a direction north, always north, toward the distant goal of Raich, and begin the most difficult journey of my life. The journey through the deep snow is a grueling, agonizing test of my endurance. Each step is a battle. The deep snow sucks at my boots, and the biting wind finds every tear in my tunic, every gap in my dented armor. My internal monologue is a torrent of conflicting duties. Just a little further, I whispered to her. I will get you to safety. But my thoughts are a constant, painful litany of my brothers' names. Silus, Caspian, Tarek, Ronan, Lucaris. Are they enduring a similar hardship? Are they lying wounded in the snow? Or are they already dead, their bodies lost to this cursed, hostile land? The act of carrying her to safety feels like a penance for having failed to keep my brothers safe on the ship. I am saving her, but I was unable to save them. The thought is a torment, a poison that seeps into my soul with every agonizing step. I push onward, fueled by a desperate, warring mixture of love for the woman in my arms and a profound, crushing guilt for the brothers I have lost. I must get her to safety, and then I must find them. I will not fail again. Just as my vision begins to tunnel, just as my wounded body is about to give out completely, I see it. It is a faint, orange glow in the distance, a smudge of light against the oppressive gray of the mountains and the driving snow. It is a sign of a settlement, a haven. The relief gives me a final desperate burst of energy, and I push onward, my steps stumbling, but my resolve like iron. The journey from the first sight of the lights to the edge of the village feels like a lifetime, but finally, I am there. It is a small, rustic place, its buildings made of rough-hewn timber and stone, smoke curling from the chimneys. I find the largest building, a sign depicting a foaming mug hanging over its door. An inn. I push the heavy wooden door open and step inside, the warmth and the smell of stew and ale washing over me. All conversation stops. Every eye in the common room turns to me. I ignore them and walk directly to the stout innkeeper, placing the silver buckle from my armor on the bar. A room, I said, and food, and privacy. The innkeeper wisely asks no questions. He leads us to a small, clean room at the back of the inn. I lay Diana down on the straw-tick mattress, the first soft bed she has known in years. I stand over her, watching her face in the last light of the day. She is safe. For now. But as I lean my aching body against the wall, I'm faced with a new battlefield. Here, in his room, my duties are at war. I must protect my mate, whose magical trace is now an active threat again. I must find my brothers, and I must find a way to Northern Reach. My threefold duty tugs at my soul, to my mate, to my brothers, and to my king, is a crushing, impossible burden.
This huge orc brings out the animal in me.
In a world where humans have been driven underground, living like rats is the only way to stay safe from the marauding orcs.
All my life, my only job has been to make sure I have enough to eat.
These orcs of the Burning Sun clan will vow to keep their human mates safe.
There is a nobleness to these giant savages, alpha male warriors who will protect their women at all costs.
Get this complete series of books following the Burning Sun clan for 70% off. Each book is a full-length monster romance that features a giant orc with eyes for his beloved, curvy human. Happily ever after guaranteed.
Protheka's magic is eternal.
This bundle will show you that size really does matter.
Chapter 30. Diana. I wake slowly, drifting up from a deep, dreamless darkness. My first sensation is one of profound confusion. I am warm. I am comfortable. The surface beneath me is soft, yielding, and a heavy blanket is tucked securely around my shoulders. The air smells of old wood smoke and clean linen, not the damp, cold earth of a cave. For a moment I am convinced that I have died, that this strange, peaceful warmth is some form of afterlife. I force my heavy eyelids open. I am not in a cave. I am in a small, rustic room, the weak morning light filtering through a single, grimy window pane. My last memories come rushing back in a chaotic flood. The battle in the snow, the terrifying surge of power through my veins, the feeling of utter depletion as I collapsed. I remember the safety of Corvac's arms, and then nothing. He brought me here. He brought me to a real room, with a real bed. I push myself up, my muscles screaming in protest, a deep, aching soreness settling into my bones. And then I see him. He is sitting on the edge of the bed, his back to me, his broad shoulders slumped in exhaustion as he gazes out the small window. I see the fresh, crude bandage on his forearm where I wounded him, and the darker, more serious stains that mar the back of his tunic from the wounds he took in the fight. He is hurt. He is hurt because of me. He turns as he senses me stirring, his bronze-gold eyes full of a weary relief. It's clear he has not slept at all, and spent the entire night watching over me. Before he can speak, before I can even properly process my own situation, the words are tumbling out of my mouth, my voice a raw, raspy whisper. "Are you hurt?" I asked. A strange sound rumbles in his chest. It takes me a moment to recognize it as a soft, tired laugh, a sound of pure disbelief. He shakes his head, a faint wry smile touching his lips. "I am alive," he said, his voice rough with exhaustion. "Thanks to you." I stare at him, confused. My memory of the end of the fight is a blur of light and terror, and then nothing. "The things you do not remember," he begins, his voice gentle. "You saved us, Diana. Your magic, it was like nothing I have ever seen. You turned 2 of them to stone. The others fled from you in terror." I listen in stunned silence, my mind struggling to comprehend his words. I did that. I, who have spent years as a helpless prisoner, wielded a power that made my captors flee in terror. I try to reconcile the memory of my own paralyzing fear with his description of my immense power, and I cannot. It feels he is talking about someone else, some powerful mythical warrior, not me. He tells me how he carried me through the snow, how he found this village, this inn. He tells me we are safe, at least for now. The Perna are gone. I am free. After Corvac finishes his story, a new kind of silence settles in the small room. It is the silence of an ended war, the quiet that follows a storm. I give thanks that I am not in a cage. I am not being hunted. I am not a specimen being observed. I am simply a woman in a warm room, and I am free. The feeling is so vast, so overwhelming, it is almost as terrifying as the imprisonment was. It is a wide, open space after a lifetime in a cramped, dark cell, and I do not know how to move in it. Relief washes over me. It is intense beyond belief. But right behind the relief, a new kind of fear begins to creep in. Uncertainty. What happens now? Where do we go? My old life, my village, my family. They are all gone, turned to ash and memory. The Perna are still out there somewhere, and their hatred for me will only have intensified. And the shadowy entity that commands them, the true source of all my pain, is an even greater, unknown threat. My gaze finds Corvac. He is the only solid thing in my new, uncertain world. My past is a graveyard, and my future is a terrifying, unknown path shrouded in mist. But as I look at him, at the steady, unwavering loyalty in his eyes, I realise that I am not walking that path alone. My newfound freedom is immense, a burden that is both glorious and terrifying. But as I meet his gaze, I feel strong enough to bear it.
Chapter 31. Corvac. I watch her sleep, in the safety of the small inn-room with a locked door and a warm fire. The lines of tension and fear that have been etched onto her face for so long have finally begun to soften. She looks younger, more peaceful, and the sight of it is a balm to my weary soul. I have done this. I've brought her to a safe harbor, a place where she can rest and heal from the horrors she has endured. The thought brings a fierce, protective satisfaction that is quickly soured by the crushing weight of my own duties. Now that the immediate danger has passed, now that she is safe, my thoughts inevitably return to the men I failed. I see their faces in my mind. Silus, Tarek, Caspian, Ronan, Lucaris. My brothers. We swore an oath on the deck of that doomed ship, an oath of reunion, and I have broken it. While I have been focused on saving Diana, they could be wounded, captured, or dead, their bodies lost to this hostile, unforgiving land. My honor demands that I find them, or die trying. I stand and walk to the small, grimy window, looking out at the snow-covered village. A painful, necessary conclusion settles in my heart. I cannot stay here. I must continue north. I must find my brothers. I tell myself that leaving Diana here is the only logical choice. She will be safer in this village, away from the dangers that lie ahead. I will leave her enough silver to last for months. I will tell her I will return. It is the honorable thing to do, and the thought of doing it feels like tearing my own heart from my chest. Diana wakes a few hours later. When she sees the tray of food the innkeeper has left, thick stew, fresh bread, and cheese, her eyes well up with tears. It is the first real meal she has had in years, and the simple domestic act of sharing it with her in the peace of the room makes what I'm about to do feel even more monstrous. We eat in a comfortable silence, a fragile peace I am about to shatter. I wait until she is finished, until some color has returned to her cheeks before I speak. Diana, I begin, my voice sounding rough and unfamiliar to my own ears. I cannot stay with you. Her head snaps up, and a mixture of shock and a deep, wounded confusion on her face. I force myself to meet her gaze, to be the disciplined soldier I was raised to be. I swore an oath to 5 other men, I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. My brothers. We swore we would reunite in Rach. They could be wounded, captured. They could be dead, and I am here, safe. My duty as their leader, my honor, demands that I find them. And our mission from my king is there, in the north. I must go. I stand and pace the small room, unable to sit still under the blanket of her stare. You will be safer here, I reason. the words feeling like a lie even as I say them. You can rest, recover your strength. To follow me would be to walk into even greater danger. I will leave you with enough coin to last until I can return for you. I stop and face her, prepared for tears, for anger, for accusations of abandonment. I have steeled myself for her pain, but I am not prepared for the fire that ignites in her eyes. She does not cry. She does not shout. She rises from the bed, her movements graceful and deliberate, and faces me, her chin held high. The fragile woman I carried through the snow is gone, replaced by the fierce, unyielding warrior I saw in the clearing. I have nothing without you, she said, her voice quiet but ringing with an unbreakable strength. She takes a step closer, her gaze unwavering. You think safety is a room in an inn? Safety is an illusion. The Purna are still out there. The storm shadow is still out there. My only safety is with you. She stops directly in front of me, so close I can feel the warmth radiating from her. And what of your duty to your brothers? She presses, her voice softening, but losing none of its intensity. You want to honor them. You want to find them. Then you must stay alive. You will not survive out there alone, not with the enemies that hunt us. Your first duty to your brothers is to not get yourself killed on a foolish, solitary quest for redemption. Your only chance of fulfilling your vow is with me, at your side. Her words, so full of irrefutable logic and fierce loyalty, shatter my flawed, foolish plan. She is right. I cannot save my brothers if I am dead. My duty to them, to my king, and my duty to my mate, they are not separate paths. They are all the same road, and it is a road we must walk together. The conflict that has been tearing me apart finally resolves. My duty is to her, because she is the key to fulfilling all the others. A profound sense of release washes over me, and I pull her into my arms, crushing her against me. I kiss her, a kiss that is not of passion or desire, but of a new, absolute certainty. It is a sealing of our vow, our unbreakable pact. We will face the future and all of its dangers together.
Chapter 32. Diana. I wake to the feeling of Corvac's lips brushing against my forehead. The morning is quiet, the only sound the soft crackle of the fire he has rekindled in the inn-room's hearth. I open my eyes and find him watching me, the fierce, conflicted warrior of yesterday gone, replaced by a man whose gaze is full of a deep and steady certainty. The decision we made last night, the pact we forged, has settled between us, a solid, unbreakable thing. I am not a burden to be left behind. I am his partner. We do not speak of it again. We do not need to. The understanding is there in the way he looks at me, in the way he hands me a piece of bread from the tray of food he has already acquired. After we eat, he unrolls the crude map on the small wooden table. I look at it with him, my world expanding with the new, terrifying knowledge he has given me. Our small village is not even a mark, and the Praj Mountains are just one corner of a vast, hostile continent. His finger traces a long, arduous path from our current position, northward, across unforgiving terrain, to a place marked as Northern Reach. The name sends a shiver down my spine. He has traded the last of his Osirian silver for supplies. For me, there are durable trousers, a warm woolen tunic, and sturdy boots that will stand up to the journey ahead. The simple, practical garments feel like a suit of armour, a symbol of my new role. I am a traveller, a fighter. As we pack the dried rations into our satchels, our movements are synchronised, an easy, unspoken rhythm. We are two halves of a whole, preparing for the war to come. As we step out of the inn and into the cold morning air, I take one last look at the small, sleepy village. The journey north to Reach is different now. The landscape is still the same vast, intimidating wilderness of snow and rock, but the atmosphere between us has transformed. The silence is no longer one of tension or uncertainty, but of a deep and comfortable companionship. We talk as we travel, planning our route, discussing the dangers that the map only hints at. He tells me tales of his brothers, giving them life beyond the shadows of his grief, and I listen, my heart aching for the reunion he so desperately needs. My role on this journey has become vital. The Perna's magical trace is a constant, invisible threat, and my masking ward is our only defense. Maintaining it as we walk is a significant drain on my strength, a low, constant hum of power that I must consciously sustain. Sometimes the ward flickers, and a spike of cold fear shoots through me, the terrifying thought that for a single second the Perna may have felt our location. Corvac always seems to sense it, his hand instinctively going to the hilt of his new sword, his eyes scanning the horizon. He never pushes me, always ensuring I have time to rest and reinforce the spell that keeps us hidden. His trust in my power, in the Perna heritage I am still so terrified of, is a quiet gift that strengthens my resolve. My physical strength returns with each passing day, my muscles growing harder, my stamina increasing. I am no longer the weak, stumbling creature he carried from the clearing. I am becoming a warrior in my own right, and I see the pride that shines in his eyes when he looks at me. That pride is a better motivator than any fear. That night, as we sit by the fire, we study the map again. The words Northern Reach are a stark and intimidating promise at the top of the worn parchment. It is a land controlled by dark elves, a place of monsters and magic, and it is our goal. The crystal caves are here, Corvac said, his finger tapping a cluster of mountains drawn on the map. And it is where my brothers and I swore we would meet. It is the only place in this world we all know to go. I trace the path with my own finger, my heart heavy with the dangers I know lie ahead. But there is more than just his mission waiting in that cold, northern land. There is a sliver of hope for my own past. The Perna who destroyed my village, I begin, my voice quiet but firm. They dealt in cruelty and power. They may have had dealings in a place like the Dark Market, which the innkeeper said we must pass. They took my sister Ingrid. If she is still alive, a clue to her fate might be found in a place like that. Corvac looks at me, his expression softening with a deep empathy. He understands. This is no longer just his quest that I am a part of. We have a shared purpose, our paths leading to the same dark, dangerous place for different, but equally important reasons. He reaches out and takes my hand, his fingers lacing with mine. Then we will face it together, he vows. I look from his determined face to the northern horizon, barely visible in the fading light. I choose this path. I choose to fight, for him and his people, for myself and the power I must master, and for the future we might build, a future that must include answers about what happened to my sister. The journey is far from over, our enemies are powerful, and the shadow that hunts us is a vast and terrifying unknown. But as I squeeze his hand, I am not afraid. I am ready.
Epilogue. Silus. Pain is the first anchor. It is a sharp, methodical reality that cuts through the disorienting fog of unconsciousness. My right arm is broken, the bone grating with a sickening finality. Several of my ribs feel cracked, each breath a fresh agony. I force my eyes open, and the world swims into a blurry, mud-colored focus. I am lying on a bed of jagged, black rock that slices into my skin, the waves of a gray, angry sea crashing over me. My mind, the strategist's mind that is my greatest weapon, begins its slow, painful inventory. I am alive. That is the first and perhaps only positive assessment. My armor is gone, torn from me by the sea. My weapons, including the Osirian longbow I've carried for 50 years, are lost. I am defenseless, wounded, and utterly alone. The memory of the storm, of the impossible shadow in the clouds, crashes down on me. I failed. As the mission's strategist, I should have anticipated a magical attack, should have had a contingency. I have led my brothers to their deaths. The thought is a heavier weight than the water that fills my lungs. I push myself up, my vision clearing, and see a sight that does not compute. Half-sunken ruins of a vast and ancient city rise from a misty gray sea, their toppled spires jutting from the waves like the skeletal fingers of a drowned giant. I have no idea where I am. The stars are wrong, the air is wrong, and this city of ghosts is unlike anything I have ever seen or read about. "Where am I?" I said, my voice a raw croak. I do not know where my brothers are. They could be on a shore 1,000 miles from here, or at the bottom of this cold, unforgiving sea. "Corvac, Tarek," I called out, my voice swallowed by the waves. "I have no map, no plan, no hope. The manticore in my soul tells me to act, but the gods push against me.